There were 2 children in the family, but only one chance to go to school. My kind-hearted younger sister gave the opportunity to me, and married the village chief's son herself. In the bitter cold of deep winter, I rushed to school on a bicycle, wearing old clothes. Meanwhile, my sister, dressed in red wedding finery, was carried into the village's only 2-story Western-style house. After graduating high school, I worked on a construction site to save up for tuition. While my sister flaunted her pregnancy in front of me, "Sis, all your studying can't compare to me marrying well." Later, after graduating university, I returned to my hometown with investors in tow. The village chief buttered me up, hoping to squeeze out more compensation for the demolition. My sister, who had given birth to 3 daughters in a row, was cursing furiously in the field. Her eyes turned green with envy as she looked at the young investor in bespoke attire standing beside me. That life should have been mine. In a fit of rage, she pushed me into the mountain torrent. When I opened my eyes again, I had gone back 10 years. "Sis, you should marry the village chief's son. Let me be the one to endure the hardship of studying." When I opened my eyes again, I had gone back 10 years. My younger sister was kneeling before our father, weeping. "Dad, please just let my older sister get married." She was crying her eyes out, as if marrying into the village chief's family was some great favor bestowed upon me. It's true, in those days, everyone believed that marrying well was better than studying well. So, when it came time to make the choice in our past life, my younger sister chose to marry without a moment's hesitation. If my sister marries into that family, she'll live a life of ease. As long as she's happy, it doesn't matter if I suffer a little. I looked at my sister, her face streaked with tears. And it was clear, she had been reborn too. Father looked at his second daughter kneeling on the floor, his eyes filled with heartache. "Isla is such a sensible girl." Dad fished around in his pocket and pulled out his wallet. "Come on, since you've chosen to focus on your studies, I'll buy you a new bicycle." Stepmother wore a look of exasperated disappointment. She took her own daughter's arm and whispered in her ear, "What were you thinking? Letting that wretched girl get off so easy?" My sister smiled triumphantly. "Don't worry, Mom, I'll definitely have a better life than her." I watched the family of 3 walk out the door, and a sour feeling settled in my heart. As the saying goes, a stepmother means a stepfather isn't far behind. I had to experience it myself to realize this is the absolute truth. Given a second chance at life, I still had no choice in the matter. In my past life, when my younger sister chose to marry into the village chief's family, my father also took out his wallet. That time, it was to add to my sister's dowry. This time, it's to get her a new car. In any lifetime, I never crossed her mind. Thankfully, after my last life, I already figured it out. Some family members are just strangers you happen to share a roof with for a decade or 2. In this life, relying on anyone is never as good as relying on yourself. The year I left that little mountain village, I carved those words into my heart, too. The day my younger sister started high school was the very same day I got married. Early in the morning, Dad borrowed a motorcycle from a relative, loaded up my sister and stepmother, and headed off to the high school in the county town. "Vanessa, I'll be back just in time to see you off for your wedding." The motorcycle sputtered to life, and my sister turned her head to look back at me with a smug expression. She said meaningfully, "Sis, make sure you have a son soon." I ignored her and went on packing my things. The county town was 30 kilometers away. A round trip would take 4 or 5 hours. When Dad said he'd come back to see me off at my wedding, he was just trying to ease his own conscience. I didn't believe a word of it. All packed, just one old suitcase, a few thin, worn clothes. My only dowry is the longevity locket my mother left me. She left me the locket, but left this world far too soon herself. I often dream of my childhood self chasing after my mother, trying to put that very locket around her neck, but Mom was just as stubborn as I was, and she never agreed. I put on the longevity locket and changed into the wedding dress the matchmaker had sent ahead of time. I ran my fingers over the embroidered mandarin ducks, remembering my sister's fate in her past life. The village chief's family was the wealthiest in our village. Many families were eager to marry their daughters into that household. Firstly, they could receive a generous bride price, and secondly, they would gain the village chief as an in-law. But as fate would have it, the village chief's family had only one son, named Ethan. It said the name carries the hope for the Lin family to be fruitful and prosperous, with many descendants. When Ethan was 7, he fell through the ice on the village pond in the dead of winter. My father happened to be passing by and saved him. To repay the kindness, Uncle Lin would bring New Year's gifts to our house every year. Now that we've all grown up, the village chief suggested our families be joined by marriage. My dad naturally agreed to this incredible opportunity without a second thought. Ethan, I murmured his name. It felt like I'd hardly ever seen him in my past life. Almost everything I knew about him, I'd heard from Isla. In her past life, my sister would run back to our parents' house at the slightest sign of trouble every time she returned. She would tarnish the reputation of the Lin family for generations. Useless, good for nothing. That was her most frequent criticism of him, yet every time, he'd still come over, all eager and earnest, to sweet-talk Isla into going home with him. As for him and me, it seems we had crossed paths once before. The year I got into university, my dad threw a banquet for me to rake in the congratulatory cash gifts. That day, all the cash gifts from everyone ended up in my stepmother's pocket. Ethan was the one who personally handed the money to me, speaking in a soft, gentle voice with the simple honesty of a farmer. He pressed 1,000 yuan into my hand. He urged me to study hard and live well. 3. The groom is here. Outside, the clamor of gongs and drums filled the air, and the matchmaker's voice cut through the noise. I stopped reminiscing and placed the bridal veil over my head. String after string of firecrackers crackled outside as Ethan, leading a group of young men, arrived at my doorstep. The matchmaker, having received the entrance red envelope, joyfully called out, "The father of the bride, carry your daughter out to her new life. In our village, there's a custom where the bride's father carries her to the wedding sedan chair. It symbolizes the transfer of care from her father's hands to her husband's family." The matchmaker called out 3 times, but there was still no movement from inside the house. Peered inside. The villagers gathered outside the door were buzzing with chatter, carrying a suitcase in one hand and holding my veil with the other. I stepped out on my own. I took small, unhurried steps. If I'm not mistaken, my dad is probably making her bed in the Isla dorm right now. After that, their family is going to buy a bicycle, of course. They'll be using my bride price money to pay for it. The villagers around couldn't stop gossiping. And where's her father? He's so taken with his new wife, he's completely forgotten about his eldest daughter. Poor child, isn't she? Listening to their gossip, I couldn't help but smile beneath my wedding veil. Poor, I never felt pitiable. I have my own 2 legs. Why should I be carried out? I'd rather walk out on my own than be handed over like a piece of property. It was also a way to make a clean break from the home I was leaving behind. As I approached the sedan chair, the courtyard erupted once more with the clamor of gongs and drums. "Vanessa, let me help you in." Ethan took my wrist and guided me into the sedan chair. He was so nervous he was sweating, and when he sat down inside, he kept a good half-meter's distance from me. Looking at his honest and simple appearance, I simply couldn't reconcile it with the image of the heartless scoundrel Isla had described. The wedding ceremony was straightforward. After fetching the bride, it was followed by the formal rites and the banquet. Before we knew it, evening had arrived. The second floor of the Lin family home was our bridal chamber, decorated in a very modern and stylish manner, its layout completely modeled after city apartments. Ethan and I sat awkwardly on the edge of the bed. I was nervous, and he was even more nervous than I was. I shifted a little closer to him and ventured, "Maybe we should get to know each other first, and talk about the other stuff in a few days." He gave a small, closed-mouth smile. "Okay." Looking at his flushed face, I helplessly grabbed his hand and said, "Lift the bridal veil for me, or everything I see will just be a blur of red." Only after the veil was lifted did I realize his face had turned an even deeper shade of red. The intimate atmosphere was shattered by the roar of a motorcycle engine. My father and stepmother had arrived. I glanced at the digital clock on the wall. It was already past 8, to give us some privacy. My in-laws had gone to bed before 7. Well, that was just great. It ended up waking the whole household. The moment he saw me, my father grabbed my arm, his eyes welling up with tears. "Oh, Vanessa, you're getting married already. It's hard for your old dad to let you go. A married-off daughter is like water spilled on the ground. You have a son. You wouldn't understand." Before the in-laws could even say a word, the stepmother was already putting on her little performance. "Vanessa, your father rode his bike for 3 hours just to come see you." I scoffed. The 3 hours were just to drive Isla to school. Our 2 houses are just a few turns down the alley from each other. Ethan was being earnest. "Uncle Xia, she'll be able to come home often in the future." My dad got even more worked up. "Now that she's part of your family, it's not right for her to visit home so often." That's when it clicked. The reason they came tonight was to get their hands on the name change money I had. I quickly stepped forward to steady my dad before he could stumble. "Dad, what are you talking about? We'll still be one family from now on. I've just gained another set of parents. That's all." As I said this, I took my father-in-law's arm again. "Isn't that right, Dad?" My father-in-law nodded eagerly. The mother-in-law standing nearby looked like a tough customer, her eyes practically rolling to the back of her head. "We're all family here. No need to stand on ceremony. Dad, when are you going to give me back that bride price?" At the mention of the bride price, my father's expression changed. The mother-in-law beside me grew anxious too. "Isn't the bride price with you?" I nodded. Then I grabbed Ethan's arm. "Honey, you're being so inconsiderate. Come on, call us Mom and Dad. You haven't gotten your name-changing red envelope yet." With the commotion we were making, a good number of nosy neighbors had gathered around. My dad had no choice. He reluctantly forked over $200. My stepmother grabbed my dad's arm, and the two of them stormed off, their faces livid. As I was leaving, I even called out, "Don't forget to give me the bride price." For the next day, I got up at the crack of dawn, but to my surprise, my mother-in-law was up even earlier. While she was out, I cleaned up all the mess left over from yesterday's wedding. Then, I gave the whole house a thorough cleaning, inside and out, upstairs and down, and finally whipped up a hearty breakfast. In her previous life, when Isla first married into the Lin family, she was practically pampered and lived in the lap of luxury. Back then, she always stepped out looking radiant and glowing. Every time she goes back to her parents' home, she inevitably starts by bragging about how much the Lin family values her, and then proceeds to take a dig at me. I never argue with her. There's no such thing as unconditional kindness in this world. Even my own father couldn't manage that. Ever since he married my stepmother, he became blind to my existence, turning a blind eye to all the suffering I endured. Therefore, I've always remembered that people's affection, love, and respect for you are merely because you have value. Later, after my sister gave birth to 3 daughters in a row for the Lin family, no one even cared for her during her postpartum confinement. Looking at the breakfast spread on the table, I called for Ethan and my father-in-law to come down and eat. I won't eat until mother-in-law arrives. I'll wait for her. If I do this, she really won't have any grounds to criticize me. Seeing that I wasn't eating, Ethan decided not to eat either. I'll wait with you. He's a stubborn, simple-minded fellow. I could tell from last night, even though the father-in-law is the village chief. In this Lin household, it's the mother-in-law who calls the shots. The mother-in-law's name is Sophia, but her personality is notoriously sharp and fiery. If I want a good life going forward, I need to keep my mother-in-law happy first. The food had gone cold by the time mother-in-law arrived. I reheated the meal and served it at the table. "Do you do this much work at home too?" My mother-in-law stared at me wide-eyed and asked. I nodded. "You're very quick and efficient. Not like your pampered sister. It seems marrying you was the right choice." My mother-in-law set down her chopsticks and rummaged around in her satchel. She pulled out 8 hefty stacks of cash. So that's what she was doing this morning. She went to secure my dowry for me. My eyes lit up at the sight of the money. Just thinking about having the startup capital for my future business filled me with glee. My mother-in-law swatted my hand away as I reached for the money. "Hey, who said you could take that? This is 80,000. I've set aside 20,000 for your parents." She took out a stack of bills and split it in 2. "This half is for you. I'll put the rest away for safekeeping." I took the money, feeling 1,000 kinds of reluctance inside. But when you're under someone else's roof, you'd better keep your words sweet. "Thank you, Mom." The old woman's hand trembled as she put the money away, seemingly startled by that word Mom. She kept eating without a word, yet her chopsticks were busy putting food into my bowl. "From now on, you should do less housework. I don't want people saying I'm bullying the new bride." 5. I took the 5,000 yuan, but I was still halfway short of my startup capital. Seeing I was in low spirits, Ethan just stared at me from the side, not saying a word. In a way, Isla's description of him was pretty spot on. "Do you have any secret stash of money?" He nodded. "Lend me 5 grand. I'll pay you back." Ethan handed it over without a second thought. I was happily counting the cash when he fell silent, just staring at me again. "What? Shouldn't you be working?" He stammered again. "It's our first day married. I thought I'd take you into town." I gave him a light punch. He never says what's on his mind. I always have to guess. Ethan had a motorcycle, and he took me to the county town on it. Our first stop was a bookstore. At my request, I'm planning to buy a few books on agriculture to study on my own. Even though I studied agricultural management in my past life, when it comes to actual fieldwork, I'm nowhere near as good as Ethan. I picked out a few books and also bought some notebooks and pens. As luck would have it, I ran into Isla at the checkout. She was holding a man's arm, the two of them looking shy yet intimate as they read a book together. I took a closer look, and the title of the book was "The Innocent Girl is Sizzling Hot." Good heavens, forget how intently they were studying it for a moment. According to the schedule, she should have been at school having her morning self-study session right now. Isla noticed me too. She looked my way, a flicker of alarm in her eyes, but the next second, her confidence returned. Clearly, she had spotted Ethan beside me. Compared to the guy next to him, Ethan was a bit of a square. Isla teetered over in her little heels, wobbling her way toward me. "Hey sis, what a coincidence. I can't believe you're in the city. Oh my god, you're buying books. When are you ever gonna have time to read? Shouldn't you be busy feeding the chickens and pigs right now?" "Oh, I almost forgot. I'll be busy popping out a few little piglets," Isla said with a smile. But her eyes held a venom she couldn't conceal. She hurled insults at me, but these were merely echoes of what she had endured in her past life. In that past life, her mother-in-law had also helped her reclaim the bride price, yet, swayed by her stepmother's instigation, she became convinced that her mother-in-law intended to pocket the bride price for herself. So, she sneaked into her in-law's bedroom and stole the bride price. Not content with that, She also made off with her mother-in-law's family heirloom. From then on, gossip and rumors about her began to spread throughout the village. Life in the Lin household became difficult for her. Apart from bearing a son, she couldn't think of any other way to prove her worth. During those years, she gave birth to 3 children and suffered 2 miscarriages. The village women whispered behind her back, laughing that she was more driven than a sow, having lived a second life. She assumed I would follow the same predestined path, but I believe we shape our own destiny. I don't think a single road leads to only one destination. Little sister, you can't get into college without studying for the entrance exams. I gave her well-intentioned advice, but she simply brushed it off. What do you know? This is my classmate. He's the bureau chief's son. I glanced at the man beside her. He looked so familiar. He pursued me in my past life, too, but the bureau chief's son seems to be nothing more than a philanderer. I turned him down back then, and it bruised his ego. I had a really rough time at school during that period. Their little clique bullied me, and most of the teachers just looked the other way. I had to fight back with everything I had. The crazier I acted, the more they left me alone. He had countless girlfriends, and there was even a girl who had an abortion for him, but in the end, he just used the college entrance exam migration scheme to get into a good university and left without a second thought. Who would have thought that even after reliving a lifetime, Isla still hadn't come to her senses? You can never rely on a man. This is my sister, just a country bumpkin. She introduced me to the man. The man looked at me with interest. Quite pretty. I've never had one so innocent before, I replied coolly. I've seen plenty as cheap as you. Before the man could even speak, Isla lunged forward and tried to slap me. Who do you think you are, talking about my boyfriend like that? Ethan cut her wrist before the blow could land. There's no need for violence. Seizing the moment, I slapped her backhanded. It landed squarely on Isla's face. Little sister, don't you dare provoke me again. I suggest you remember this. Where there's a will, there's a way. I didn't tell her the second part. My fate is in my own hands, not in heaven's. Isla glared at me resentfully, stamping her foot in frustration. But in front of the bureau chief's son, she had to act sweet and innocent. In the end, she could only watch helplessly as I walked away without a backward glance. 6. Ethan took me on his bike to pick up some daily necessities. When we passed by a clothing store, I hopped off to pick out a few outfits, one set each. Perfect. He put on his new clothes and looked much more refreshed and energetic. Vanessa, thank you for buying me such expensive clothes. Don't mention it. It was your money, after all. After getting back, I spent the first 2 days reading those books on agriculture. Next, it was time to head out to the fields. The Lin family not only had many houses, but also quite a lot of land. However, it wasn't used very efficiently, only growing some vegetables and fruit. I had Ethan take me out to the farmland. To my surprise, the vegetables in the field grew exceptionally well. I picked some of them and made sure they were properly preserved. Ethan and I took them into town to test the waters, and unexpectedly, they sold like hotcakes. This only strengthened my resolve. Ethan spends all his time out in the fields. I used to think he was just avoiding factory work. It turns out, he genuinely loves this land. Standing right in the middle of the plot, he went on and on, explaining how to grow all sorts of vegetables. All his usual shyness and awkwardness had completely vanished. I know exactly when this field needs watering and when it needs plowing. Vanessa, to be honest, sometimes I can tell when you're happy or upset. I just don't know how to say it to you. I was busy examining the condition of the soil and automatically ignored his second remark. If you know farming, that's all that matters. We could go into business together. After surveying the land, I ultimately decided to set up a greenhouse for cultivation, half for organic vegetables, half for strawberries. I ordered a set of tarps and steel frames, and the delivery arrived at the edge of the field. To save money, I enlisted a few people from the village to help with the construction. I was so busy in the fields, covered in dust and grime, that I didn't even have time to eat. My mother-in-law brought me 3 meals a day. She didn't understand what I was doing, but she never questioned it. After the greenhouse was finished, I had just stepped out of the field when I ran into my sister, who was home for the holidays. She had come back by car. My stepmother was bursting with pride, boasting all over the village like a town crier. Our Isla is riding in a car now. You know, Isla's boyfriend is the county magistrate's son. No one is as fortunate as our Isla. I ran into Isla just as I was coming out of the fields, covered in mud. She rolled down the car window and took off her sunglasses. Vanessa, I'm sure my fate is better than yours. Even if you mess around with all this stuff, you'll never get out of this little mountain village. She stared at me with pure malice, as if I were personally responsible for the misery of her past life. The man by her side was a different one again, a face I didn't recognize. The man spotted my greenhouse, pretty high-tech. I've seen these on TV, they can be real money makers. The moment Isla heard money, her eyes instantly grew wary. She shoved her way into the driver's seat and slammed her foot on the accelerator. The car plowed into the field, and the greenhouse I'd just finished building collapsed in an instant. I never imagined Isla could be this unhinged. Just how scared must she be to resent any bit of good fortune coming my way? The car circled the field twice before rumbling off into the distance. I was so furious that I grabbed a shovel and stormed back to my parents' house. 7. Isla was sitting in the yard sunning herself, and my dad was even giving her a massage. That girl's studies are just too demanding. I let out a cold laugh. Must be exhausting, spending every day trying to pick up all sorts of men. A guy sitting nearby, his arms covered in tattoos, stood up and started cursing at me. He even raised a chair, threatening to throw it at me. How can you talk about your own sister like that? My stepmother plopped down on the ground and started wailing at the top of her lungs. In no time, the neighbors all gathered around to watch the spectacle. There was my father trying to break it up, my furious sister, my mother cursing up a storm, and me standing there with a shovel. What a scene it was. I whacked my sister right on the backside with a shovel. You dare wreck my greenhouse? I'll turn your whole family's world upside down, my sister. Clutching her backside, ducked behind the man. My boyfriend is the county magistrate's son. You wouldn't dare lay a finger on him. I hesitated for a moment. The county magistrate's son, he really did seem like someone you couldn't afford to cross. But the very next second, a large iron ladle came crashing down on the magistrate's son's head. I turned to look and saw my mother-in-law arriving with the entire Lin family in tow. Their faces full of fury. How dare you bully my daughter-in-law? Do you have a death wish? The mother-in-law whacked them over and over with a ladle, like she was playing whack-a-mole, until they were all bruised and battered. My sister shielded her head with one hand and her backside with the other, yelling, "Call your dad right now, have them all thrown in jail." The burly, tattooed man was completely deflated, cowering on the ground, not even daring to lift his head, the county magistrate's son, and yet so utterly pathetic. The mother-in-law waved her hand. "No need, I've already called. I had no idea the county magistrate had a son like this." Sirens wailed in the distance. The man with the tattooed arms looked at his sister and stammered, "I'm the county magistrate's driver's son. For fuck's sake, she made me do all this." The two of them panicked and started turning on each other. A police car pulled up to the curb, and a man in a sharp suit stepped out. "What's going on here?" The elderly woman pointed at Isla and the man with the sleeve tattoo. "They're the ones causing trouble." Isla stared at the woman in disbelief. She had lived with the Lin family for over a decade, yet she never knew her mother-in-law had a relative who was a county magistrate. The county magistrate took a glance at the scene and directed the police officers behind him to take them all to the vehicles. The younger sister panicked and started pleading with her stepmother for help, but at that moment, her stepmother had no time to spare for her. My stepmother and my father hobbled over and grabbed my shoulders. "Oh, come on, we're family. This is all just a big misunderstanding." The county magistrate's face instantly turned cold. "This is work time. We don't discuss personal matters." My father and stepmother were taken away by the police. The nosy neighbor's eyes went wide with shock. In this tiny mountain village, there was actually a relative of the county magistrate. 8. With the matter settled, the old woman invited the county magistrate back to her home. Although it was a distant relation, they were still connected by blood. After all, as soon as we were seated, I had an assortment of fresh fruit cuts brought to the table. The county magistrate took a bite, looked at me, and asked, "You're Vanessa?" I nodded. "Good. I've heard you're planning to start greenhouse farming." "Yes. Just thinking about the greenhouse Isla wrecked makes my blood boil. This is a great project. Your application for the startup grant has been approved." Really? I couldn't believe it went so smoothly. I was grinning from ear to ear. My mother-in-law shot me a look. This girl is always tinkering in the fields, and the moment she's home, she's scrambling to do more work. Just look how thin she is. I knew she had a sharp tongue but a soft heart. Yet I never expected she had already considered me part of the family. I just smiled. My mother-in-law generously pulled out 100,000 yuan. "Here, take it and go for it." She really was saving that 80,000 for me, and even added some of her own money to it. "Thank you, Mom." My mother-in-law's eyes welled up. "Vanessa suffered far too much before she got married. I was a bit harsh on you before, afraid you were siding with your stepmother. When you were little, I'd always see you, just a skinny kid, working in the fields, with no adult in sight. I never imagined that all the hardship I endured at home, which even my own father turned a blind eye to, was noticed by a neighbor. No wonder a few pieces of milk candy would mysteriously appear by my field every time she passed by. In those tough times, a single piece of milk candy felt like a treasure to me." Grandma wiped away my tears and said, "From now on, you just focus on what you want to do, Ethan, and I will handle all the little chores." With the money from Grandma and the startup grant, I rebuilt the greenhouse. At the same time, I also took Isla and the tattooed man to court. In the courtroom, my father hurled abuse at me. "We're family. Why are you targeting your own sister? You're harming your own flesh and blood. You heartless, ungrateful wretch. You ungrateful brat. You're just jealous that your sister is doing well. And it eats you up inside. He was spitting as he spoke, his finger trembling with rage as he pointed at me. So, he hadn't forgotten after all. I was his biological child too. Then why did the whole family see my sister off to school on her first day? When I started school, I pedaled that broken down bike all by myself, and the chain came off 3 times on the way. Why is my sister at home watching TV, while I'm out in the field planting peanuts? Why is the coldest, smallest woodshed always my room? He never seems to notice any of this. I sat across from him, detached, as if watching a stranger's performance. The verdict was undoubtedly fair. The man with the tattooed arms and Isla have to compensate me for the greenhouse. Meanwhile, because my sister is still a few days shy of 18, she is only being temporarily held in the detention center. 9. I went back home. I wasn't alone this time. My mother-in-law, father-in-law, and Ethan were all with me. We took the court verdict and went home in high spirits. The new greenhouse has been completed. To ensure the greenhouse's security, Ethan set up a small hut at the edge of the field. He goes to keep watch in the evenings. The seeds were sown in the field a while ago. With the recent temperature and humidity being just right, the strawberry plants have sprouted after some time. Fast-growing greens can yield a new harvest every few months. I learned how to ride a motorcycle on regular days. I ride my motorcycle to the town and the county seat. You can't just bury it in the ground. You need to find distributors. Our dishes are all about being natural and pesticide-free, so I targeted a few high-end restaurants in the county town right away. Only the wealthy have the luxury of worrying about whether their food is healthy. I secured deals with 2 clients, signing 1-year contracts to supply them with vegetables. This way, I've recouped a large portion of my costs. The feedback from several restaurants has been excellent, which really put my name on the map. I made some money, reinvesting part of it into the fields, giving a share to my in-laws, and keeping the rest for myself. My mother-in-law accepted it without a hint of hesitation, repeating her usual line, "I'll put it away for you." The business was thriving, and I set my sights on the city's most renowned restaurant, the Winery Pavilion, if we could secure a partnership with them. We'd establish a steady stream of cash flow. I rode my motorcycle straight to Winner's restaurant. Before meeting their boss, I ordered a full table of dishes first. As luck would have it, the conversation from the next table was incredibly loud. Grabbing my attention, I turned to look, and it was actually Isla and her family. "Mom, Dad, dinner's on me today. Order whatever you like. Don't hold back. All expenses today are covered by Yen Master Zhao." Isla raised her glass for a toast. Looking like an old hand at it, my gaze drifted downward, landing on the slight swell of her abdomen. Isla is pregnant. The restaurant owner happened to come by to discuss a partnership with me. Naturally, the boss's arrival drew everyone's attention. The moment Isla saw the boss, she immediately and eagerly followed along. "Bossing, on behalf of my master, Yen Master Zhao, I'd like to propose a toast to you." Bossing waved his hand in refusal, saying, "I'm sorry, but I have important business to discuss." He then extended his hand toward me. "Boss Vanessa, welcome to our restaurant." I shook his hand politely. Isla, standing behind, widened her eyes in disbelief at the sight. Her, a lowly farmer, what could she possibly do? As she spoke, she pretended to accidentally spill the red wine from her glass onto me. Oops, my hand slipped. I ignored her. From the very beginning, she saw me as a rival, terrified I might get ahead. But my mind was completely occupied with making money. I couldn't be bothered with her. I simply asked Bossing to switch to a private room to continue our discussion. Seeing how nonchalant I was, Isla got flustered. If I didn't get angry, she'd be the one feeling upset. She quickened her pace and grabbed my arm. "Vanessa, I'm the Yen mistress of the Zhao family now. What gives you the right to act so high and mighty with me? Can't you hear me talking?" In her quest to maintain a slender figure to win Mr. Zhao's favor, her grip on my wrist was naturally quite weak. I broke free with just a little effort. "It's the 21st century. Whose Yen mistress do you think you are?" Isla's tone remained defiant. "Vanessa, I'm carrying a child, you know." She leaned in close to my ear and whispered, "You'll never catch up to me in this lifetime. This baby is a boy, and he will be the Zhao family's heir, and you'll be stuck in the village farming forever beneath me." Hilarious, as if anyone would want to compete with you. Oh, seeing that I still hadn't reacted, Isla stormed off, determined to fetch in Master Zhao to back her up, but she hadn't taken more than a couple of steps before she let out a sharp cry and tumbled to the ground. She fell in the exact spot where she had thrown the red wine at me. The red wine was stained with a crimson hue, making it impossible to tell if it was blood or wine. Isla was taken away by an ambulance. She was pregnant yet deliberately dieting, leaving her body malnourished. That fall caused an immediate miscarriage. The belated Yen Master Zhao left only these words: "Since the child is gone, don't let her bother me anymore." 10. I signed a long-term contract with Bossing. I also made a request of him to promote my strawberry picking farm at his restaurant while running my organic vegetable business. I also developed a pick-your-own agritourism venture. I rented the houses from several families in the village who had left for migrant work. After some simple renovations, I turned them into ghost houses and farm stay experiences. Our village may be remote, but with its mountains and rivers, it's an ideal spot for developing tourism. With more private cars now, city dwellers looking to breathe the fresh mountain air are coming in a steady stream. On top of that, we're seeing school group activities and art students coming for sketching trips. The few existing ghost houses are no longer enough to meet the demand. The villagers were green with envy seeing me make money, so they all started copying my methods, but they had no clue about running a business and were completely out of their depth dealing with the demanding city folks. I let them stew for a few days until they got so desperate. They all came running to my house looking for me. The villagers stopped calling me the Lin family's daughter-in-law and started calling me Boss Vanessa. This is all per my mother-in-law's instructions. She's always had faith in my abilities. I earn the money outside, while she takes care of all the household chores. Sometimes I can't help but reflect. So this is the cozy domestic life of a wife, children, and a warm hearth that men dream about. It really is as good as they say. Instead of renting the houses from the village aunties, I hired them into my company. The company is small, and it's simply called Vanessa's Farmstay Resort. I signed profit-sharing contracts with them. All the homestays have standardized pricing. We focus on attracting guests, not competing for them. Regular evaluations are conducted. With scores given by guests, excellence is rewarded, while shortcomings are met with encouragement. In no time, the competitive spirit was ignited among all the aunties and matrons in the village. Fewer people were idly chatting at the village entrance, as everyone was busy tidying their homes to earn money. The hot topic in the village has shifted from who had a daughter or a son to how to run a business and what unique local delicacies to offer guests. This land is no longer dominated solely by men. Women, whose labor value had been overlooked for a lifetime, are gradually taking the lead. My work has gotten busier. I bought a car and am constantly on the move. 11. Seeing that I had made a decent amount of money, my stepmother showed up at my door again, dragging my own father along. The two of them came in sniffling and in tears, clutching a bundle of cornbread buns. "Sweetheart, you've gotten so thin." The moment she stepped inside, my stepmother threw her arms around me with exaggerated warmth. "Look, it's your favorite cornbread. I made it just for you." I really could eat those cornbreads back in the day. I'd have 3 in one meal. If you dared to take a single bite of the meat on the table, you'd get 3 slaps for it. After a whole day of farm work, I was absolutely starving. Only cornbread and water could make a proper meal. I made a couple of clicking sounds, and the little white dog in the yard came running. I broke off 2 pieces of the bread to feed the dog. My stepmother's face darkened, but she didn't dare to say a word. My father chimed in right after. "Vanessa, you're my own flesh and blood. How ironic." It was my mother who carried me for 9 months. The one who was never around was my father, and now, suddenly, I'm his dearest kin. "Vanessa, you've made it big now, but your old man is getting on in years. I have no son, no heir. You have to take care of me in my old age." I frowned. "But father, I'm neither your son nor your grandson. What right do I have to be your caretaker?" Before I could finish, my mother-in-law grabbed a broom and started shooing him away. "Get out. I don't care who you are, get out of my house. This is just wrong. Something foul has come in." My stepmother and my own father had no shame whatsoever. They just plopped themselves down at the front gate and started cursing up a storm. I glanced at the time. It was almost here. I turned and started walking in the direction of their house, thinking I'd gone soft. They scrambled to their feet and started trailing right behind me. A van pulled up right outside their house. Several men in sharp suits stepped out of the vehicle. My stepmother was over the moon. He rushed into the house calling for Isla. After her miscarriage, Isla was cast out by the Zhao family. She was forced to leave the new apartment she'd barely settled into and return to this small, earthen-walled hut, confined to the house for her postpartum recovery. She was too ashamed to show her face and never went out. "Isla, your sister is here to take us to a better life." Isla stared at the brand new van, muttering under her breath. Why, worried they might misunderstand, I quickly began the introductions. "These two are my investors." The scenes from my past life merged with reality. Isla stared at me in disbelief. As if possessed, she lunged at me and seized my arm. Her eyes were bloodshot, as if she wanted to tear me apart. "No, it can't be. Why you? Why does it have to be you? Why are you always the lucky one?" Isla was held back by the people around her. Sitting on the ground with her hair disheveled, looking at her, I couldn't help but feel a pang of pity. Given a second chance at life, with countless paths before us, why does she still choose to repeat the same mistakes? "Little sister, let me tell you why. Because I never take shortcuts, and I never rely on anyone else." 12. In the second life, it seems we've swapped fates, yet in truth, nothing has really changed. I rode my rickety bike through the snow to get to school. my hands covered in chilblains, forcing myself to ride through the pain. But what about her? Isla was inherently lazy. The moment she entered school, she latched onto wealthy kids, riding in their cars to avoid the daily grind. She lived lavishly on an allowance bought with her body and dignity, using money to mask her humble origins. I studied desperately, enduring the bullying from those rich kids, fighting tooth and nail just to survive among them, hiding at the back of the classroom. Gnawing on a frozen, rock-hard bun, a man toils on a construction site, hauling sack after sack of cement until calluses form on his shoulders, yet she sits in a bubble tea shop, wearing an off-the-shoulder top, busy vying for the yen master's favor. We seem to have shared a similar fate, yet every step we take is in the opposite direction. All roads lead to Rome is perhaps the best description of my life, yet for Isla, it was a different path leading to the same grim end. She clung to the fantasy that her beauty and fertility could buy her a brilliant future, but such actions were nothing short of self-destruction. She sought status through childbirth, but wealthy families had long mastered the art of keeping the child and discarding the mother. Little sister, no matter how many times we start over, I will never lose. Isla froze, then descended into even greater madness. The two investors walked a full circle around the house and gave me their approval. This house will be demolished to make way for the village's welcoming gate. Is there a relocation compensation? Her stepmother no longer paid any attention to Isla, who was throwing a tantrum on the ground, her eyes filled with greed. Yes, there is. Perfect. That'll cover the damages to my greenhouse. I haven't forgotten about the previous verdict that's still hanging over us. I gave them a week to pack their things. When the 7 days are up, they're out. A notice was posted at the village entrance. Our village has been designated a model demonstration base for rural revitalization. The government allocated a sum of money to me to follow up on this project. The little earthen house of my childhood was torn down by an excavator in 2 scoops. And a new welcoming gate rose from the ground. The village was bustling and lively, with everyone in high spirits, even happier than during the new year. Well, except for Isla's family. Isla has gone mad. She drools and runs wild through the village all day, claiming she's a live pig. She often goes and lies down in the pigsty. My stepmother and my own father are going to sue me in court. They say I'm failing in my duty to support them. I didn't stop them. They went, paid the court fees, and came back with their tails between their legs. I stopped being his daughter a long time ago, the year I was born. The one-child policy was in effect. In his desperation to have another son, he forced my mother to register my household registration under my grandmother's name. Later, my mother died from complications during the birth of her second child. From that moment on, I disowned him in my heart. With their home gone, they had no choice but to return to my stepmother's hometown. I heard they had a fight along the way and abandoned Isla in the middle of nowhere, because she was a burden, ate a lot and hated walking. I don't know where she ended up, and I don't care. I stood at the top of the hill, the highest point in the village, looking down at the place of my birth at the foot of the mountain, now the most prominent site in the village. I took out the longevity locket from my chest. Mother, you must be watching over me from afar, in this life. I will live to a ripe old age. 13. The village is thriving, and it's time for a change in leadership. The whole village voted for me to become the village chief. I declined, citing other commitments. I recommended 2 recent university graduates. They're young, driven, and free from the complicated web of village politics, making them a much better fit for the role. There's a rumor going around the village that I'm trying to get pregnant when I go for a morning run in the village. People say it's the city folks' way of preparing for pregnancy. After 2 days of this, my mother-in-law started joining me on my runs. Armed with a big iron ladle, she'd give anyone who dared to gossip a good whack with it. Even when faced with someone who wasn't afraid of a fight, she could still put them in their place. What's the matter? You see how good my family is and you're in a hurry to sign up for your next life. With just that one remark, she silenced the entire village. After handing over my duties for the tourism village, I packed my bags and left home. I was born on this land. It has given me both pain and warmth. No, I have given my all on this soil. From here on out, I'm heading for a bigger world. I've enrolled in a university for adult education. After that, I will go abroad to see the world, to explore a much broader horizon. The whole village came out to see me off on the day I left. Everyone had tears in their eyes, especially my mother-in-law. I said my goodbyes to them. Mom, don't cry. I'll come back regularly. Yeah, next time I come back, Mom will have her visa sorted. She'll be coming with me. It wasn't until I got to the airport that I realized Ethan didn't seem to be there to see me off. After all, being husband and wife, it was a kind of fate. Just as boarding was about to start, he showed up, loaded down with bags. Vanessa, behind every successful woman, there is a supportive man, as the plane took off. My village grew smaller and smaller in the distance, and I knew that a new chapter of my life was about to begin. In early summer, the grass grows tall, and the song of learning never ceases. Vanessa, the future is bright. The end. Story 2. My parents are famously doting on their daughter in the entertainment industry. I scored 50 points, and my parents took me to a restaurant to celebrate. My younger brother scored 90 points, and my parents made him kneel all night for reflection. I got into a fight at school, and my parents paid to keep it quiet. My younger brother was late for class, so our parents punished him by making him write a self-criticism essay. Everyone praised our parents for favoring daughters over sons, while they cursed me for having no self-respect, falling for a delinquent with bleached hair, getting pregnant out of wedlock, sending our parents to the hospital from anger, and finally dying in childbirth, just before I died. I heard the parents who supposedly loved me most say coldly to the doctor, "She's finally dead, no more pretending to be a doting father for the fans." My younger brother also said with utter disdain, "She wouldn't give me the endorsement deal, she deserved to die." When I opened my eyes again, I was back at 13, holding a test paper with a score of 50, while my parents were playing the doting daughter card in front of the camera. As long as our Ophelia is happy, her grades don't matter. 50 points, that's amazing, just shy of passing. Daddy's taking his good girl out for a feast. My dad is a C-list extra in the entertainment industry, and my mom is a perennially underrated supporting actress. My parents' careers were lukewarm both before and after their marriage, until they had me, a daughter who inherited all their best physical features. At 13, they took me to participate in a family reality show called Family Treasure. My parents became an overnight sensation with their doting daughter-obsessed personas, landing endorsement deals one after another. In my past life, when my parents not only didn't scold me for my low scores but treated me to a fancy dinner instead, I naturally assumed that academics weren't important. In the end, I didn't even score 200 on the cultural exam for art school and was mocked by netizens as an illiterate celebrity child. Reborn, I refused to be set up for failure. "I'm not eating anymore, I did so poorly on the test, I need to go study." Hearing this, the parents' expressions froze for a moment. How could they show how open-minded they were if their daughter wasn't going to eat the fancy dinner? Asterisk. With their daughter doing homework alone, how could they increase their screen time? "Ophelia, it doesn't matter whether you study or not, Mom and Dad just want you to have a happy childhood." Mom offered false comfort. Exactly. Does studying really mean more to Ophelia than having dinner with her parents? Dad, having lost face, looked displeased. I suppressed my anger, no longer wanting to put on an act for my parents. Studying is indeed more important than eating. The live chat was instantly flooded with praise. Netizens praised the parents for their excellent upbringing, having raised such a well-behaved and sensible daughter. If my son were half as obedient and sensible as Ophelia, I wouldn't have needed a heart bypass surgery at such a young age. My kid scored 4 out of 10 and specifically asked for braised pork balls, so I gave him a bamboo whipping through tears. Can anyone relate? The child of 2 parents with master's degrees from top-tier universities scored lower on her Chinese exam than her body temperature. Pushing your kids is pointless compared to pushing yourself. Go Ophelia. A 50 isn't scary, hard work is what brings results. Looking at the screen full of supportive comments, the parents' faces darkened, but their agent offstage shook his head, reminding them to maintain their doting dad persona. Only then did they suppress their anger, with practiced skill. My mother listed a variety of fruits and vegetables before the camera, announcing she would personally head to the kitchen to prepare a nutritious meal for her daughter. Not to be outdone, my father, afraid she would steal all the limelight, declared he would help our daughter with her studies. I sat at my desk, my back to the camera. No camera captured the suffocation in my heart. The honey of my past life had all turned to poison, caught in my throat, neither going up nor down. All the love and care I received turned into a piercing sword through my heart at the moment of death. Only at life's end did I realize I'd been living in a Truman Show world. Hearing the footsteps drawing closer, I gripped the pen in my hand tightly, yet I had to control my strength, fearing that in a moment of rage I might stab their eyes out with the pen tip, screaming at them that if their love was fake. Were they also behind the drugging by that blonde-haired punk? That drink was personally brought by my mother and coaxed down my throat by my father. I refused to believe they knew nothing about it. Fortunately, my acting skills from my past life allowed my expression to return to normal the moment my father called me, as if I were still that child from my past life, blissfully ignorant and drowning in honey laced with arsenic. "Ophelia, Daddy's here to help you with your studies. You can ask me anything you don't understand." My father spoke to me with a kind voice, yet he kept his back to me, facing the camera. Of course, I knew exactly what he was up to. Thinking about how he dropped out of middle school, I pointed to the hardest math Olympiad problem and asked, "Dad, how do you solve this problem?" I handed the pen to my father. He took the test paper with a confident look on his face and pointed to the table close to the camera. "Let's go over there. The lighting is better." Of course I wasn't going to stop him from embarrassing himself in front of the entire internet, so he moved to the desk close to the camera, perfectly positioning it to capture both the test paper and his father's face. I stood off camera and urged him, "Dad, you're the best. This is so simple, you'll have no problem with it." The father was already sweating profusely as he stared at the test paper. He had bought his high school diploma, having dropped out of junior high to become a bit player. Whatever little knowledge he had from school was long gone. Forget solving the problems, he could barely even understand the questions. Is junior high math this difficult nowadays? I should have known better than to show off. However, his daughter's praise in the audience before the cameras successfully put him on the hot seat. I can do this, of course I can, just give me some time to think. 30 minutes later, my father solemnly wrote the character, solution, on the test paper, replacing the knife component with mouth to appear more professional. He even added a colon after the character, and then nothing. The live stream chat erupted in laughter. The agent was about to have a fit watching the live stream. The devoted dad persona didn't go viral, but his illiteracy did. Meanwhile, the father remained completely oblivious, fully absorbed in studying the problems. Just then, the mother came in with a plate of fruit, sporting her signature warm motherly smile. "Ophelia, you must be tired from all that homework. Come have some fruit to recharge." My eyes unconsciously dimmed as I stared at a plate of kiwis. Kiwis are my younger brother's favorite fruit, while I prefer cherries and strawberries, yet kiwis are always the fruit we have at home. I know my mother is doing this deliberately to provoke me, hoping I'll have a meltdown in front of the camera to highlight her image as a kind and virtuous mother. In my past life, I flipped the plate on the spot. My mother apologized to me with tears streaming down her face, then went out to buy cherries in a downpour and ended up sick with a fever. Netizens flamed me for 3 months, and my mother successfully landed the role of a loving mother as the female lead in a movie, riding the wave of attention. But I'm not foolish this time around. I even put on a surprised expression and ate the sour kiwi, one bite at a time. "Mommy, you're so good to me. Thank you, Mommy." My mother's expression changed slightly as she asked with concern, "Ophelia, is it sweet? Weren't you always fond of strawberries? Should Mom go buy some for you?" I smiled, picked up a piece of fruit, and fed it to my mother. "It's absolutely delicious. Try it yourself. I don't want any strawberries. Mom, please don't go out. If you get caught in the rain and fall ill, I'll be worried sick." The tartness assaulted her taste buds, causing the mother to grimace as her face scrunched up. Her manager nearby coughed repeatedly as a reminder, afraid she would ruin her nurturing mother persona. Hearing her manager, the mother had no choice but to swallow the bitter-tasting kiwi. She forced a smile to handle the live stream. "I can't handle sour food, but Ophelia loves it, right?" She stared directly into my eyes, with even a hint of threat in her gaze. I knew what she was afraid of. This reality show was her last chance to turn her career around in the entertainment industry. Who could blame her? After 10 years of acting, she's still known as the best supporting actress, while every leading role she's taken has flopped, so the loving mother persona had to be flawless. In my past life, my acting teacher said that my mother didn't even have as much natural talent for acting as I did. I could star in just a few random dramas and netizens would praise me as being blessed by the heavens. The only problem was my terrible temper, which caused a lot of controversy and meant I frequently offended people, so my career opportunities were inconsistent. I put on a performance far better than my mother's, smiling with an innocent look. "Any fruit cut by Mom tastes sweet, even when it's sour." Netizens were once again warmed by my smile, leaving comments asking where they could pray to have such a thoughtful daughter. And I didn't disappoint, sending another phrase straight to the top of the trending topics. "But kiwi is my little brother's favorite fruit. Whenever I see kiwi, I think of him. Mom, could you bring him over to be on the show with us too? I miss my brother." My parents' faces instantly changed, and their agents quickly signaled them to make me shut up. With an innocent look on my face, my mouth was running like a machine gun. "Dad, didn't you say that my brother is the root of our family? Now that the root isn't by your side, you must be heartbroken, right? Mom, we have several boxes of kiwis at home, but it's a pity that my brother can't eat them. Why don't we bring him over to enjoy them together?" The heartfelt words left them speechless. They truly did love their son and felt for him deeply, but in the entertainment industry, to get ahead you have to project the daddy's girl image. Liking your son only gets you labeled as favoring boys over girls. What else could they do? They even dared only to promote themselves as a family of 3, terrified that the public knowing they had a son would ruin their image. After all, having a daughter and then trying for a son, no matter how noble the reasons, makes their deep desire for a son painfully obvious. The audience isn't stupid. As soon as I revealed my younger brother's existence, the live stream exploded. "So there's actually a son too, huh?" No wonder this family's interactions felt so awkward. It was all staged. Save the love for the daughter, save the money for the son, TSK. Think about it, really think about it. Even though they have a son, wouldn't only bringing the daughter on variety shows clearly show they love the daughter more? Maybe the son was an accident, planned for a daughter, got a son instead. What's a family desperate for a boy to do? Public opinion erupted in waves again because of something I said. My agent could only temporarily halt the shoot as he watched the real-time trending topics shoot up the charts. The moment the cameras turned away, my parents' expressions changed, and they stopped hovering around me. The director gave me a meaningful look before finally handing me a business card. "Kid, you've got a knack for attracting drama, perfect for this industry. If you want to act, give me a call." I calmly accepted the card and thanked him politely. The director had a sharp eye. In my past life, I could make headlines just by taking out the trash. However, my parents have the constitution of never becoming popular, so they often cling to me, hoping I can make both of us famous. In my past life, I made many terrible movies to secure resources for my parents, but they showed no gratitude whatsoever, taking everything for granted, even dragging me along to drink with big investors in exchange for better resources. However, no matter how good the resources thrown at them were, they couldn't make the slightest splash. Over time, investors were unwilling to keep doing business at a loss. My parents grew even more dissatisfied with me, believing I hadn't done my utmost to repay them in this lifetime. Without my help, I'd like to see if my parents can still have great opportunities handed to them while they just sit around at home doing nothing. The controversy over Family Treasure reached its climax when the live stream was interrupted. #Ophelia's dad can't write characters. #Ophelia's dad only has a middle school diploma. #Ophelia's little brother loves kiwis the most. #Family Treasure son preference in the new era. Countless trending topics rushed to the top of the charts, vying to give her parents more attention. Meanwhile, his parents were arguing with the agent at home. Get those trending topics taken down. They must be removed. The director of Dear Mom isn't taking my calls anymore, and it's all because of these trending topics that are ruining my reputation. His mother sat on the sofa wiping away tears, while the agent was delighted. "We can't take them down. This is all publicity. When have you ever been this popular since your debut?" Father was furious and refused to back down. "I'm almost being mocked to death for being illiterate." The new professor role has already been taken away because the director said an illiterate person playing a professor wouldn't be believable. The agent couldn't care less. "But you've received 7 or 8 variety show invitations. It's just a supporting role, so what if it's gone? Just take a few variety shows and you'll make tens of millions." My parents' ideas clashed with the agent and the company once again. Yet they never dared to stand up to the company. They could only vent all their anger on me. Unfortunately, I was stopped by 2 agents, and the female agent among them squatted down. "Little girl, do you want to be a star? You could wear pretty dresses and sparkling jewelry every day. If you want, I promise to make you a superstar who's famous beyond the stars." My mother's agent, Joanna, is notoriously known in the entertainment industry as a smiling tiger. I replied with a smile, "Auntie, you're so impressive. Why not become a big star yourself? Don't you like pretty dresses or sparkling jewelry?" Joanna's smile froze on her face. For the first time, she was left speechless by a sharp-tongued little girl. My father's agent, Eric, laughed at the sight. "Kids these days aren't so easy to fool. Did you think she was as dumb as her mother?" As he spoke, he stepped forward and crouched down to meet my eye level. "Ophelia, just look at your parents and you'll know you didn't inherit any smart genes. Your family's gravesite won't be smoking with good fortune in this lifetime. You'd be better off becoming a star, making easy money. Why wear yourself out with all this studying?" Those words were painfully true, but I didn't fall for it. If you can become a celebrity with bad grades, then why was Dad called illiterate and replaced by the production team? Eric couldn't very well call her dad stupid and a know-it-all to his face, so he had to swallow his anger. Both major agents had been defeated, yet my parents were staring at me with disgust. Back in the day, they had to beg and plead just to land a bit part, and now their daughter appears on a variety show and people are begging her to become a star. They're jealous but still have to bask in their daughter's glory. Just as the family was in turmoil, the grandparents suddenly arrived at the door with the younger brother, Daniel's wife. "I've brought our precious darling to see you." The apple of his grandparents, I was their most beloved grandson, Kian. The moment the door opened, a chubby 5-year-old boy came barreling into his parents' arms like a whirlwind. "Mom, Dad, Grandma said you're taking me on TV. Is it true? Awesome. I'll show everyone at school who's the boss." At these words, his parents were instantly caught in a dilemma. Ever since it was revealed they had a son, their doting father persona began to crumble. If they bring their son on a variety show now, wouldn't that just confirm their hidden preference for sons over daughters? The parents exchanged glances, each seeing the other's decision reflected in their eyes. Not wanting to hurt their son's feelings, the mother signaled with her eyes for the father to speak. "Son, it's not that I don't want to bring you with me. I'm keeping you off TV to protect you." Mother chimed in from the side. Yes. Your father and I don't want you to work so hard. How about I give you another 30,000 in spending money? I stood nearby and scoffed, unwilling to let their son work hard. They pushed their daughter to the forefront to be their pawn. In his past life, Kian had his parents protecting him from the moment he debuted. They firmly refused to let him take on bad roles, insisting that every character he played had to be positive and uplifting. However, he also inherited his parents' perpetually lukewarm popularity. Despite playing the second male lead in over a dozen serious dramas, he never quite made it big. It wasn't until it was revealed that he was the biological brother of the popular female star Ophelia that he shot to fame overnight. Kian, with his parents' support, used me as a stepping stone for his marketing. Countless netizens praised him for not wanting to ride on his sister's coattails, keeping their sibling relationship secret for years while filming, highlighting his good character and disdain for marketing tactics. In reality, he only got the resources for each of his roles because of me, and all the seven-figure marketing expenses went down the drain. In this lifetime, I fulfill his wish to achieve fame at a young age. Mom, but little brother really wants to be on TV. You all say you love him, so can't you even grant this small request? I stood to the side, watching my brother with affection. I even tipped Grandma and Grandpa's hands, begging them to persuade our parents. Grandma and Grandpa were very pleased with my performance. Seriously, how can you be less mature than your own granddaughter? Even she understands the importance of supporting her younger brother, so why won't you let Kian be on the show? Ophelia's all grown up now. Does that mean she has to save all the good opportunities for her little brother from now on? Forcing down my nausea, I nodded at my grandparents' fake smiles. Got it. Kian saw that even his most annoying sister supported him being on TV, while his favorite parents were trying to stop him from becoming famous. In a fit of anger, he kicked his father and climbed down from his arms. Meanies, you're all big meanies, bad people who won't let me on TV. I'm never going to like you again. I don't want you to be my parents anymore. With that, he threw himself on the ground and started rolling around, kicking his legs wildly. I can't go on, let me die, just die. The father clutched his kicked thigh, feeling both angry and heartbroken. The mother was even more at a loss, not knowing what to do. The grandparents quickly knelt down to comfort their beloved grandson. Kian's such a good boy, the most obedient one. If mommy and daddy don't behave, spank them. As she spoke, Grandma raised her hand as if to hit Mother, and only then did the little brother stop crying. The slap was just a light tap, but Mother despised this method of discipline. See, it's all of you at home spoiling the child. The moment he doesn't get his way, he rolls on the ground like a hooligan. When the grandmother heard her daughter-in-law questioning her parenting methods, she immediately fired back. If you think you're so capable, you teach him then. Who is it that went off to film right after giving birth? Who abandoned their child with the grandparents without a second thought, and who refuses to bring their own son on TV shows? I've raised this child to be healthy and well-fed all these years. If I don't deserve credit for my efforts, I at least deserve recognition for my hard work. Have you, as his mother, ever actually taught him anything? The mother burst into tears at the retort but couldn't argue back. The entertainment industry changes rapidly. If she doesn't go out to act, her career will fade even faster. Finally, their manager Joanna couldn't take it anymore and threw in the towel. Just go if you want to. You're giving me a headache with all this arguing. The room fell silent. Even the youngest brother instantly recognized who was really in charge and started cheering with joy. He even happily gathered around Joanna, asking for a hug. My parents' lips trembled, but they swallowed their concerns. Yet they still looked worried, concerned whether their son could adapt to the live variety show, and even more afraid that his personality would attract criticism once broadcast. Amid the laughter, only the agent Eric gave me a meaningful look. 3 days later, the hashtag family treasure Ophelia's brother joins hashtag was once again flamed by netizens and hit the trending topics. The parents' initial marketing persona as daughter-doting dads was too deeply entrenched, and now that this image has backfired, it's no wonder netizens are furious, using their daughter to open up the market, then bringing in their son to reap the benefits. This calculating move almost hit me in the face. With a thunderous boom from the sky, His Highness the Crown Prince makes his brilliant entrance. Perfect. From now on His Highness the Crown Prince shall be called Little Brother Ophelia, sitting on the sofa. The father stared at the hateful messages in his DMs and urgently contacted a marketing firm to buy trending topics. Quick, buy some trending topics to divert attention. My son is too young. What if he gets traumatized by all this hate? But we can't let the money go to waste, so let's make my daughter the trending topic instead. What kind of trending topic? The more controversial, the better. For example, her scoring 50 on an exam. Wouldn't that make a perfect topic? Asterisk. You think I've gone crazy? Of course not. It's free publicity, and my daughter will be thanking me for it. Hanging up the phone, I realized my father had already planned to use me as a distraction to save himself and his precious son, but why would I let him have his way? In my room, phone in hand, I saw the new trending topic just as I'd expected. Hashtag Ophelia, the 50-point star kid hashtag. Hashtag does the entertainment industry really need illiterates? Hashtag I logged into my account. Took a picture of the test paper on my desk, shared 2 trending topics, and added a caption: the entertainment industry doesn't need illiterates. I will study hard and strive to live up to everyone's expectations. As a celebrity child, I'm ashamed of not being a positive role model. That's why I've decided not to enter the entertainment industry. Home with Treasures will be my final variety show. In an instant, the likes skyrocketed. And another trending topic, hashtag Ophelia not entering entertainment industry, hashtag instantly topped the charts. I've never liked the ostentatious lifestyle of the entertainment industry. In my past life, if it weren't for my parents and younger brother, I would have quit long ago to travel the world. Now that I'm living this life all over again, I'll live it exactly how I want. A minute later, I heard my parents' screams, "Ophelia, what are you doing? Ophelia, you get out here right now," through the front door. I could hear the agents whispering and my parents shouting. I opened the door, putting on my most innocent expression. "Mom, Dad, what's wrong?" The 2 agents' gazes toward me deepened, while my parents flew into a rage. "What's wrong? What the hell are you posting on your phone all day? Not joining the entertainment industry? Did I work my ass off getting you on those shows for my health? Hand over your phone. From now on, I'm taking care of your account." I obediently handed over my phone. "All right then, but I've already deleted my account." It was like a thunderbolt striking right beside their ears. Neither of them could believe what they'd just heard. They picked up their phones to log into Weibo, only to discover that their daughter's account, with 10 million followers, had already been deleted. Mother clutched her heart in anguish, looking as if she wanted to rush forward and slap me across the face. "Do you have any idea what you're doing? 10 million followers? I've been in this industry for over 20 years and never amassed that many." Father was even worse, his hands trembling as he shoved the phone into my arms, veins bulging on his forehead. "Register another account for me and say that everything you said before was just said in anger. Did you hear me? I won't allow you to quit the entertainment industry. Register it for me now. The money tree has just bloomed but hasn't borne fruit yet, and you already want to give up." He would never allow it. Holding my phone, I squeezed out a few tears. "I don't want this anymore. Everyone online is calling me illiterate. I only found out from the trending topics that the audience doesn't like me. Since nobody likes me, why should I enter the entertainment industry just to be criticized? I'd rather not do variety shows. I want to go to school. I want to go to school." Hearing my reason for deleting my account, my father's vision went black, and he staggered back 2 steps. He couldn't believe that by buying a few trending topics, he had successfully killed his cash cow. "It's just a few harsh words. It's not like you're losing any flesh over it. People are criticizing you because you're in the spotlight. If you can't even handle this much negative publicity, are you really my daughter?" Lucian, tears instantly streamed down my face as I said pitifully, "I really can't take it anymore. Dad, am I really not your daughter? Mom, who is my biological father? Please tell me, won't you?" The mother, unable to bear it any longer, slapped the father across the face. "This is all your fault. What was the point of that stupid trending topic? Look at us now, millions in promotion fees down the drain. Are you happy now?" The angrier the father got, the more he loved to sling mud at others. "You dare hit me? With Ophelia's difficult personality, she might not even be my flesh and blood. You're so used to crawling into other people's beds. God knows how many times you've made me a cuckold. I've put up with it for all these years, and now you hit me." The 2 instantly started shouting insults at each other, throwing punches without restraint in front of their children. The couple had long been estranged, needing only an excuse to vent their dissatisfaction with each other. My grandparents took my brother and hid in the room, probably to badmouth my mother again. I retreated to my room, leaving the battlefield to the 2 of them. In the end, it took the 2 agents to persuade them apart. 3 days later, Family Treasure aired again. After dominating the trending topics for several rounds, the livestream viewership successfully surpassed 10 million, making it the hottest variety show. Countless people waited by their phones, eager to see the true face of the heir to the throne. I sat between my parents, wearing a beautiful dress sponsored by the brand, so meticulously styled that every single hair had its own perfect curve. My parents put on fake smiles, each one holding one of my hands. They wanted to cast me as the family's little princess, showing their determination that daughters would always be their favorite, even after having a son. My palms were soaked with sweat, and the coarse calluses covering the back of my hands made me feel nauseous. My younger brother sat at the far end, next to our mother. Seeing our parents hold my hand while leaving him behind, he pouted in dissatisfaction. "Mom, Dad, I want to sit in my sister's seat, make her get lost." Just then, the door opened as countless cameras flooded into the room. With the first words they captured being "make her get lost," the agent covered his face, the director pressed his lips together, and the parents turned deathly pale with fright. The comment section exploded instantly. No wonder he's the crown prince. He started with a royal flush. Interesting. I thought it was genuine sibling affection, but I didn't expect celebrity families to have thrones to inherit too. To be able to curse at his sister on live TV and tell her to get lost. I can't imagine how much Ophelia has endured behind the scenes. Not necessarily directed at his sister. What if he was cursing at his dad instead? Right. P.S. 50 cents per message. Mass send to clear his name. The father forced a smile, but it looked pale and weak. Kian, don't call your sister names. Apologize to her right now. The mother thought quickly. Kian, you didn't mean that, did you? You're just a child. Did Grandma and Grandpa teach you to say that? Father immediately understood what mother meant and patted my shoulder solemnly. Ophelia, Dad wants to apologize to you on behalf of your brother. He's been spoiled by his grandparents since birth, unlike you who had your parents to guide you. I wonder if my grandparents are healthy enough to handle being blamed like this. Dad, you don't need to apologize. I don't blame my brother, but if you had listened to me earlier and brought him back, he wouldn't be so distant from you now. I passed the buck right back, then got up and led the little chub to sit between our parents, voluntarily switching seats with him. I thoughtfully stroked my brother's chubby cheek to comfort him. Little brother, you sit between Mom and Dad. They're just used to being close to me, your big sister, that's why they forgot about you. How about I apologize to you? Okay, Kian isn't mature enough yet to grasp the deeper meaning behind my words, but he subconsciously felt uncomfortable. Clearly, he was the center of the world, yet his sister spoke as if she were bestowing a favor upon him. Moreover, the crash course from their parents was no match for the constant brainwashing from their grandparents day and night. He instinctively swatted away my hand as I reached to caress his cheek. You're lying. I'm Mom and Dad's favorite son. Who do you think you are? You good for nothing who'll just marry off someday anyway. As soon as these words were spoken, gasps filled the room once again. The two agents had already turned away, unable to watch any further. The director, however, was delighted. Melodrama was what drove ratings and popularity. The parents' faces, however, suddenly turned ashen as if plunged into an ice cellar. Excuses like the child being young, being spoiled by grandparents, or lacking parental companionship couldn't explain Kian's feudalistic remarks. Even the carefully crafted personas they've worked so hard to build are at risk of collapsing. For the sake of his future and popularity, Lucian took decisive action. Shut up. Is that any way to talk to your sister? You've been completely spoiled by your grandparents. Go to your room and think about what you've done. The younger brother was stunned by his father's angry roar. As the youngest child in the family, he had always been given whatever he wanted. How could Dad stop liking me just because I went on some stupid show? He instinctively turned to look at his sister, only to find me smiling. Kian was completely furious. It was all his sister's fault. He lunged forward suddenly, the fat on his face quivering. This is all your fault. You stole Mom and Dad's love from me. I don't want a sister. Get out. These are my parents. This is my home, my house. A sharp pain shot through my leg, and I let myself fall, putting on an expression of disbelief. Tears instantly welled up in my eyes, streaming down my cheeks as I channeled my inner melodrama queen. Little brother, you. The parents never expected their son to act out on the show, and in their moment of surprise, they couldn't help but feel a tinge of genuine anger. All the goodwill built up from previous episodes might now go up in flames. At the critical moment, the mother was even more ruthless, grabbing the younger brother and ignoring his cries as she dragged him into the room. Stay in your room and reflect. You can come out for dinner only after you've apologized to your sister. As she spoke, tears welled up in her eyes too, and she pulled me up, feigning remorse and anguish. It's Mommy's fault. After giving birth, I was so busy with work that I neglected teaching your brother properly. Ophelia, Mommy is so sorry. I suddenly caught the scent of my mother's perfume, same as the director's, and instantly understood. No wonder she's called the Golden Supporting Actress. Now I have no choice but to go head-to-head with her in acting. Mom, I don't blame you. I've been happy just being with you all these years. Sometimes I feel sorry for my younger brother, but can you please not neglect me because of him? I casually turned my position, perfectly positioning myself for the camera to capture my helpless and pitiful expression. It turns out that when it comes to acting, I have a bit more natural talent than she does. She didn't expect me to be such a good actor, even though I was pushed over. I wasn't angry, her mind just couldn't process what was happening fast enough. This resulted in a somewhat stiff expression, which the audience quickly picked up on. Of course, Mom loves Ophelia the most. There's a reason why my father could never land the role of the Golden Supporting Actor. He was a beat too slow in forcing out tears as he apologized to me, swearing to the heavens that I would always be their favorite child. With my brother coming in second, the whole drama left the director speechless. Those in the know thought he was filming a variety show, while others might have mistaken it for a primetime melodramatic family soap opera. The chaotic morning passed by in such a manner At lunchtime, my mother prepared the meal early and had my grandparents pass it to my son through the window, to the outside world. However, she put on the appearance of a strict mother, not allowing my younger brother to eat at the table. It's nothing for a child to miss a meal, but he must understand the principles of being a decent person. Today, no one is allowed to bring him any food, not even a drop of water. I had long since smelled the delicious aroma of food coming from my younger brother's room, so I made sure to save a chicken leg, and while my parents were busy being lovey-dovey while washing dishes, I sneaked into my brother's room with the camera guy following behind. "Brother, look, I brought you a chicken leg." When the door opened, we both froze at the sight of the roast stuck on Kian's plate, chips scattered all over the floor, and a glass of soda with ice. I pretended to be flustered and quickly blocked the camera. "It's fine, let's go out quickly, don't disturb your brother while he's reflecting." I don't know what promises Grandma and Grandpa made, but my brother once again confidently boasted to me, "Who cares about your big chicken leg? Mom ordered Peking duck for me, Dad bought my favorite chips, and Grandma and Grandpa said they'll teach you a lesson once the show is over." The commotion from the room reached the kitchen, and my parents immediately put down the plates in their hands. I rushed to the room door, and seeing me again made my anger flare up uncontrollably, not understanding why my daughter always had to mess things up. Just as I was about to yell, "Why are you always picking on your little brother?" I noticed the camera hidden behind my daughter. The words that were about to come out took a detour and were now directed at my chubby son. "Who gave you the roast duck and chips?" The younger brother froze. "Weren't they the ones who sent it? Why ask who sent it?" Without waiting for her son to answer, the mother continued on her own. "It was the grandparents again, wasn't it? How many times have I told them not to spoil the kids? But they never listen." The father went along with it, saying, "We can't let this continue, we need to talk to your parents." Fortunately, the agent was smart enough to have given the grandparents a heads up in advance. The two elderly couple looked at their son and daughter-in-law with displeasure, ready for a confrontation. "Mom and Dad, was it you who brought food to Kian?" The elderly couple was wronged but couldn't speak up. On one side was their son's career, on the other was their own pride. In the end, the old couple backed down and took the blame. "It was us." Now the mother had found the perfect excuse to vent her frustration. She had long been fed up with her in-laws. Resenting how they were spoiling her son and turning him against her, she unleashed a torrent of criticism. "Don't you realize you're ruining Kian? It's because of all your bad habits that he's picking them up too, eating breakfast in bed without brushing teeth, sleeping with candy in his mouth, throwing tantrums when he doesn't get his way." "I've had enough." The mother grew more heated with her tirade, and the father could see she was no longer pretending, stepping in front of his mother. All right, let's talk this through calmly. Don't get angry so easily. My parents are in their 70s, show some respect." Yet it was precisely this peacemaking attitude that made his mother explode like a firecracker at the slightest provocation. "Respect? When have your parents ever shown me any respect? Don't think I don't know she's been stirring up trouble between me and Kian behind my back. Of course it doesn't matter to you. Your parents would never badmouth you behind your back." Before the sibling conflict could be resolved, marital tensions surfaced. For the first time on camera, the father was berated by his wife. Completely humiliated, he decided to expose her secrets. "Haven't you been trying to turn my daughter against me behind my back, just to get more screen time for yourself? Deep down, you're just afraid I'll become famous and outshine you. Don't think I don't know how you landed that supporting role in that S-plus blockbuster." It was because the sharp sound of a slap left everyone stunned, eyes red with rage. The mother gritted her teeth and resentfully slapped the father across the face. The show was forced to interrupt again. The agent quickly rushed on stage to mediate the conflict. I took a small step back, a flicker of mockery in my eyes. Father was indeed right. In my past life, Mother had warned me not to talk too much with Father, let alone praise him openly in front of the camera. Both have been in the entertainment industry for over 20 years. The mother still lands major supporting roles, while the father has been stuck playing minor parts. As a result, their mother runs the household, with the father constantly flattering and deferring to her. If the father were to make it big, the mother wouldn't be able to control him. So the tension between them has always been there, but I believe that when it comes down to it, the father will still be the first to back down, because their interests aligned. Just as expected, he came out of the room half an hour later and managed to soothe his mother with just a few words. The two decided to issue an apology and go live again in an hour, just to be safe. The father sternly warned his son, "You are not to listen to your grandparents and insult your sister anymore, you understand?" Of course, a child wouldn't understand. In his past life, Kian only grew closer to his parents after he came of age, because he knew that if he wanted to break into the entertainment industry, he had to rely on his parents. His grandparents were useless. As an adult, he'd rather attend variety shows than visit his grandparents on their deathbeds. He even spun a narrative about being so dedicated to his acting that he missed their funeral, only to be exposed and flamed by sharp-eyed netizens. But he's still just a child now, and children are all about doing whatever they want. I'll say whatever I want. I love Grandma and Grandpa because they never yell at me. Dad is the worst. Get out. I can just go on the show and find Aunt Joanna anyway. You're completely useless. I couldn't help but be stunned. I was wrong. I thought my younger brother's cold and heartless nature was something he developed after growing up and witnessing the complex relationships of interest between adults. I never realized it was hereditary. My apologies. I had no idea. The father was heartbroken and furious upon hearing this, and for a moment, he was at a loss for words. Finally, he decided to lock his son in his room and only let him out when he had calmed down. I was taken back to the room by my father's agent, Eric. He had a sharp eye and was brutally direct. You're really something else, with no cameras around. I couldn't be bothered to put on an act, I replied coolly. Thanks for the compliment. You're perfect for this industry. You've got it all, the buzz, the looks, and audience appeal. Yet I shook my head firmly. Who enjoys living with a smile that hides daggers, constantly scheming and calculating? Not interested. Eric sighed deeply. My fate is truly bitter. The ones who qualify for contracts lack the right credentials, while those with proper credentials refuse to sign. He didn't try to persuade me further, just left a business card and departed. I threw the business card into the trash bin, opened the test papers on the desk and started working on them. When my focus was on the test papers, the pain would subside. I worked through 3 sets of test papers in one go. Although the error rate was still high, I was full of fighting spirit. Knock knock knock. Ophelia, are you rested up? Time to come out and record the show. Joanna opened the door and seeing me doing homework, gave me a few compliments. I gathered my emotions and walked out. Just as I stepped out, I saw my parents sitting on the sofa embracing and weeping, with my father confessing and my mother forgiving, both apologizing to each other and reconciling. Being born into a celebrity family has its perks. You get to watch dramatic love stories without even turning on the TV. When they saw me, both of them started apologizing and confessing again. After a whole day of, the home became warm and cozy once more, and my parents decided to cook a big meal together. This time, they actually put their son through hunger, locking all doors and windows to prevent the grandparents from bringing food. I took the opportunity to slip back to my room to continue my homework, and the cameraman followed me in. He thought he would capture some exciting footage, but it turned out to be just me working on problems the whole time. After finishing my assignments, I tidied up my desk and picked up my phone to check the trending topics. Today my parents are trending more than ever in the entertainment world, with almost all of the top 10 hot search topics about them. Hashtag daddy's girl persona, hashtag crown prince of Sient, get her out of here, hashtag Ophelia's mom, the mystery of the supporting characters' resources, hashtag Ophelia's dad playing peacemaker, hashtag celebrity couples marriage falling apart, hashtag. The comments and trending reviews below are almost all negative. The parents don't have many followers to begin with, so they have no way to control the narrative. This is what you get for favoring sons over daughters. Even though the son grew up with his grandparents, that's no excuse for him to bully Ophelia. Holy crap, are couples really spilling this much tea? Don't stop, keep going. I casually flipped through the comments, completely unbothered by the live stream cameras. The chat barrage started picking up again. Sweetie, don't look. Those are hate comments. I can't imagine how heartbroken Ophelia must be seeing these. Sweetie, you need to focus on your studies. I liked that comment, then put down my phone and ignored the new wave of public opinion. At dinner, they were once again putting food in each other's bowls, and then both of them started piling food onto my plate. In my past life, I always thought that even an elusive happiness was still happiness. I tried desperately to hold on to it, only to fall into the abyss in the end. But now, I just feel a lump in my throat. After a few mouthfuls of rice, I put down my bowl and chopsticks. Although my parents try their best to play the part of a harmonious couple in front of the camera, savvy netizens are no longer buying it. Seeing them being all lovey-dovey is sickening. It's an eyesore for the audience. Many brands, seeing that the couple had lost their value, rushed to terminate their contracts. They lost 7 or 8 couple endorsements in just one night. This sent the two of them into a panic, and in the end, they decided to target me. In the evening, my parents came to my room with grave expressions. My mother spoke first. Tell me, what were you doing in your brother's room? Do you really think I'd let my own son go hungry? Now you've ruined everything, and you have to fix it, otherwise you can forget about getting money for school. My father chimed in. Your mother's right. We've spoiled you rotten all these years, and that's why you've grown so thoughtless. I laughed wryly. Fix it? How? The audience isn't stupid, Mother said confidently. Of course you'll be the one begging us to reconcile, sending us a couple of gifts, then crying on camera about not wanting mom and dad to separate. The audience might not believe that your father and I are in love, but they'll definitely believe that we parents would reconcile for our daughter's sake. Clap, clap, clap. I clapped my hands. Truly brilliant. To protect their marital interests, they're using their daughter as a shield. I became the sinner, yet my parents benefited immensely from it. I already had a plan in mind, but I still had to pretend to agree. Mom and Dad, you're absolutely brilliant. Mother was very satisfied with my attitude. Then hurry up and get ready. Put on a better show tomorrow. After they left, I climbed through the window to the balcony, then slipped into my mother's room. I entered the password, opened the safe, and took out the sealed phone. My mother had always been cautious, using a different phone when things got ambiguous with the director and investors. I typed a message and sent it to the director. After thinking for a moment, I copied and pasted it to another unnamed pinned contact. Finally, I put everything back exactly as I found it. Returned to my room the same way I came, and continued with my homework. At 10 o'clock at night, I was lying in bed, wide awake. After the shoot, my father made an excuse about attending a dinner party and went out. He hasn't returned yet. Only my younger brother, my mother, and I were left in the house. I waited until I heard suggestive sounds from the neighboring room before calling the young cameraman who was sleeping in his car, telling him that we had a burglar and asking him to bring some people over, specifically instructing him not to bring the camera equipment. However, the production team only cares about the show's popularity, and catching thieves is something best done with audience participation, so he gathered a few crew members and came right over with the cameras, hanging up the phone. I immediately called my agents Joanna and Eric to tell them there was a burglar in the house and that my dad wasn't home. They both told me to lock the doors right away and that they were coming over immediately. At 10:30, the photographer guy came in. The suggestive sounds from inside the room grew louder, mixed with rough, low growls. I took a deep breath and rushed out the door, with tear-reddened eyes and a face full of tears. "Brothers, you're finally here. Please, save Mom. A thief hit her and made her cry." The cameraman felt something was off, but seeing the child's tears, he had no choice but to rush into the house along with them. "Mom, don't be afraid. I'm coming to save you." The photographer and I slammed into the door together. Crash, the door collapsed, and piercing screams instantly erupted from inside the room. "Get out, out." "What? Mom, what's wrong?" "Mom, I'm coming to save you." "What are you filming? Put that down." Director, chaotic cries mingled with a man's curses. Clothes scattered all over the floor. The cameraman and I both froze in place. Like a pair of stunned quails, I was faking it, but the cameraman was genuinely frozen. The crew member by the door with the camera scrambled to cut the live feed, but it was too late. The Night Owls Online still caught the filthy, chaotic scene. The bullet comments are gone, but the trending topics are on the rise. Hashtag actress Hillary has affair with family treasure director. Hashtag threesome. Hashtag the blessing of staying up in the middle of the night. Someone save my eyes. Not even disinfectant can unsee this. Help, am I seeing things? There seem to be more than 2 people on that bed. I can testify. I saw the third one. Now that's what I call wild. At that moment, I also saw a man desperately crawling under the bed on his back. This really shocked me. At the time, I figured the director wouldn't have time to edit the footage, so I only informed the others. I didn't expect everyone to be so free late at night. Another sleepless night. By the time the agent arrived, the situation was beyond repair. Not only my mother, but even the director was dragged into the mess. Whether the variety show could continue filming became uncertain. Amid the chaos, I returned to my room. I couldn't help but recall my past life, when I lost consciousness after drinking that beverage. When I woke up, the bedside was surrounded by reporters and cameras, countless flashes blinding me so much I couldn't open my eyes. Before I could even process what was happening, my mother's slap landed across my face. She frantically tore at the blanket covering me, beat my head, and cursed in her mouth. "How could I have a daughter like you? So shameless. Why are you so worthless? Would you die without a man?" Afterwards, rumors spread that I had fallen for a street punk with bleached hair. However, just a month later, my mother starred as the female lead in a billion-dollar blockbuster film. Meanwhile, I became public enemy number 1, receiving death threats every day. Early in the morning, I woke up from my bed. As soon as I stepped out of my room, I saw my mother with bloodshot eyes, her hair in disarray, with several empty liquor bottles scattered at her feet. I approached her with false comfort. "Mom, it's okay. Dad is still here. He waited in your room for a long time yesterday, but unfortunately, you didn't see him." My words didn't make much sense. But my mother wasn't in her right mind either. She got straight to the point, grabbing me by the collar and asking, "Was your dad in my room yesterday? Did you see what he was doing?" I thought for a second, no, but I heard the sound of a box being opened. She rushed back to the room like a madwoman. It was him. It was actually him. She opened her phone and sure enough, there were 2 messages she hadn't sent. Besides Lucian, her husband, who else could possibly know her secret? They had agreed to start fresh together with their daughter, but he dared to use her as a stepping stone to clean his own reputation, leave me behind to ascend alone. Not a chance. Standing outside the room, watching my mother pound the bed and tear at the blankets like a madwoman, I realized for the first time that devils truly do wear human skin. The home router was smashed by my mother, and her phone was destroyed as well. She was avoiding reality, afraid to look at the online comments, and even more afraid to answer her agent's calls. I picked up my phone to find that my agency had already released a statement terminating our contract. The director was insinuating that my mother had been seducing him. He broke down crying, apologizing profusely, and expressed how deeply sorry he was for letting his family down. My father kept posting and deleting messages on Weibo, back and forth, until finally, with a heavy heart, he announced that he would stand by his wife and weather the storm together. This move certainly did wonders for his reputation. Many people praised him as a true man of honor and loyalty. As for the man who crawled under the bed, he hasn't shown his face or given any news to this day. But to appear on Mother's pinned post, he must be no ordinary person. I opened Father's Weibo post and pretended to be happy as I showed it to Mother. "Mom, look quickly, Dad says he won't leave us, he'll stand by you and get through this difficult time together." The mother gave a cold laugh, picked up her phone, and burst out laughing after reading it, laughing hysterically and desperately, shaking me by the shoulders. "He's such a hypocrite. He ruined me and now he's trying to build his reputation by stepping all over me. Don't you dare call him Dad, you hear me?" She then let go of me, opened her photo album, found a video, and sent it out without a second thought. Once the video finished uploading, she burst into uncontrollable laughter. "I'd like to see how he gets out of this one. Husband and wife are like birds in the same forest. When disaster strikes, he won't be leaving me behind to save himself." A scornful smile played on my lips. They were truly husband and wife, each holding something over the other. Bar VIP room. Right after Lucian used his wife to clean up his image, directors started calling him on the spot to offer collaborations. When he was in a good mood, he invited a bunch of internet celebrities to celebrate. His buddies were all congratulating him on his great success and that he was finally free from his aging, worn-out wife. Some women even started fawning over him on the spot, trying to climb the social ladder. Just as he was riding high on his excitement, an influencer in the corner suddenly spoke up. "June, your wife's here to call you out." He quickly took out his phone, only to find that the top trending topic wasn't about his wife's affair, but #Lucian's late night video chat hashtag. Clicking on the trending topics, he was shocked to find a video of himself having a video chat with a social media influencer in the nude. The private parts were pixelated. All his desire for a wild night was gone. He scrambled into his car and drove home without a clear plan. While driving, he received another message from that director. "The role has already been cast, but I look forward to working together next time. Damn fence sitter, Villa No. 9. I sat on the steps outside, occasionally looking up at the sky. The weather was clear and bright, truly a beautiful day, before the car even came to a complete stop. My father angrily unbuckled his seatbelt. I pointed inside. "She's in her room." Posted something on Weibo and kicked me out, told me not to bother her. Great, so it was her. My father stormed inside, while I remained sitting on the steps, basking in the sun. Before long, sounds of shouting, screaming, and shattering porcelain came from the house. There was even the sound of a door being broken down and a child's wailing. Unhurriedly, I took out a bottle of cola, took a sip, and felt completely refreshed. Then slowly poured an entire bottle of cola onto the ground. To mourn the unjust death of their past self, a month later, both parents were dropped by their talent agency, and numerous brands demanded compensation for breach of contract. Their videos went viral on the website, with netizens affectionately calling them the madman and madwoman. Oddly enough, the couple who were always threatening divorce never actually went through with it, terrified that the other might find someone better and leave them behind. Hounded by their sponsors and with no way to pay the hefty penalty fees, they decided to make me their target, but I was one step ahead and arranged to live at school, staying with my grandparents instead. My maternal grandparents were simple elementary school teachers. My mother had excellent grades in high school but was discovered by a talent scout and ran off to act, which ruined her academic performance. In the end, her college entrance exam results were disastrous. She also scammed her grandmother out of 200,000 yuan in pension money to gamble, nearly giving her grandmother a heart attack from the stress. I almost burst out laughing. That's why my mother rarely interacts with her parents and is terrified they'll expose her past and ruin her acting career. When I found my grandfather, he didn't trust me at all, since I appeared on the show too. He thought I was a fraud just like my mother. It wasn't until I signed a written promise to never enter the entertainment industry, just hoping they would take me in and pay for my education, and that I would pay back double the tuition and living expenses once I started working. The two elderly people had a soft heart and finally agreed to my request. "Don't be like your mother, just focus on your studies, don't worry about the money, and I don't expect you to pay me back." And so, under my grandfather's forceful intervention, My parents were forced to accept reality and didn't dare to force me to act anymore to pay off debts. In September, I returned to school with my backpack after a long absence, my heart filled with warmth and familiarity. My classmates looked at me with the same curiosity as if they were seeing a monkey, but none dared to come up and talk to me. New semester, choose your own seat, pick your own desk mate. Even the spot next to the trash can was taken, yet the seat beside me remained empty. I wasn't lacking companions or good friends, so I didn't let it bother me until a black backpack slammed onto the desk, and a cool, cocky guy standing in Air Jordans appeared before me. "You're Ophelia, that, Ophelia." When the last two words came out, I heard the whole class burst into giggles. I felt ashamed too. I looked up and met those youthful, unrestrained eyes. "Just call me Ophelia." The male classmate extended his hand. "I'm Ryan, and I'll be your desk mate." "Unless something unexpected happens, kid." I reached out and shook his hand. I didn't take him seriously at all. In the new semester, I buried myself in my studies and grew much closer to my classmates. They realized I wasn't as distant as I appeared on TV, and when I even helped them with water and snacks, they opened up and accepted me. Most kids this age just play without a care in the world. In my past life, I frequently skipped school at this time and had to learn how to read people's expressions. Life nowadays is so fulfilling it feels almost unreal, yet accidents always seem to find their own way to you. After I won first place in the 800-meter race at the school sports meet and stole the spotlight, several girls from the neighboring class banded together to come to our class looking for trouble. "Hey there, isn't this our big celebrity? What's she doing participating in the sports meet?" "Oh right. It's because her parents cheated on each other, no more connections to rely on, so she can only come here to study." As soon as these words were spoken, many classmates started to fight back. "Are you crazy? Coming to class 1 looking for trouble? Su Ching Ching, watch your mouth." My desk mate was even more direct, slamming the back door shut with a bang, nearly hitting the girl in the face with the main door. The girl, however, was even bolder. She ran up to the podium and openly challenged everyone. In my past life, someone at this level would be called cannon fodder. Seeing this, I sighed. "Isn't studying good enough? Why play mind games? Ophelia, do you admit that your parents cheated on each other?" Seeing the girl shouting on stage, I immediately got up, put her in a headlock, and dragged her out of the classroom to the restroom in the blink of an eye. Half an hour later, the girl ran out with red eyes and a terrified expression. While I casually walked out after washing my hands, facing everyone's curious looks, I waved my hand and said, "Nothing." She repented. Ryan asked, "What did you do?" I replied, "Present the facts, reason with her," and in the end, she repented. Presenting the facts, I demonstrated by kicking a mop and breaking it. Reasoning with her, I told her that if she dared to cause trouble again, she'd end up like that mop. Repentance. The other person trembled and begged for mercy. Everything went smoothly and made perfect sense. However, my deskmate gave me a look that said, "Yeah, right," as if I'd believe that. I said frankly, "Admittedly, my parents are quite unconventional, but I'm serious about my studies." My deskmate twirled their pen and answered nonchalantly, "If you already know, then stop wasting my study time and give me back my homework." My deskmate chuckled. "I know your parents aren't exactly decent people." I gave him a questioning look. He suddenly explained, "The one hiding under your mom's bed that night was my dad." My eyes widened in shock, and I gasped, but my deskmate was nonchalant. "But thanks to that incident, my mom was able to get a smooth divorce, split the assets, and now I'm with her." I didn't know what to say, so I just focused on my homework to calm myself down. Throughout middle school and high school, Ryan and I remained friends, occasionally getting together for meals. My parents still won't give up on me as their cash cow, constantly trying to persuade me to return to the entertainment industry. "Even if you get into Tsinghua or Peking University, how much can you earn in a month after graduation? In the entertainment industry, a single endorsement deal easily brings in millions. What's the point of studying so much except wasting time?" Faced with such remarks from my parents, I always respond with facts. It's incredibly useful. "At least I won't embarrass myself on the global stage like you all did." In my second year of high school, my grandparents tried to help me apply to universities abroad. Luckily, I actually received 2 offers. Ryan came and asked if I wanted to go with him so we could look out for each other. I retorted, "How can you be sure we'll both get into the same school?" He didn't answer, but instead flashed his offer letter. "You actually got offers from 5 universities." My voice was filled with envy and shock. By some stroke of luck, we both actually got offers from the same university. However, my parents found out I was going abroad to study and invited me home under the pretext of one last family gathering. Even my grandparents urged me to go, saying it would be difficult to see each other again in the future. I felt a growing sense of unease, which turned into a chilling realization when I was handed that glass of spiked orange juice. In my past life, I was too flamboyant and offended another rising star and her powerful backer. They conspired with my parents to frame me, and my own parents sent me into the abyss with their own hands. What about this time? I stared at the orange juice before me, my gaze gradually shifting to the locked door behind me. Ophelia, drink up. Why aren't you drinking? Mother's nervous smile gave everything away. This is orange juice that Dad squeezed himself. It's so sweet. You have to try some. Father rubbed his hands together, his eyes filled with anticipation. I sneered and shoved the juice glass to my mother's lips. Why aren't you drinking? The look in my mother's eyes immediately panicked. She tried to explain, but suddenly a figure rushed out, grabbing my hand and dragging me toward the locked door. Mom, Dad, why waste time talking to her? Just lock her up for 3 days and nights, take a few photos, and she'll never dare raise her voice to you again. So it was Kian. Seeing my parents tacitly approve of his actions, I smashed the cup in my hand against his head, accompanied by a scream. Police sirens sounded outside the house. I saw Ryan get out of the car and hurry toward me. Under my parents' astonished gazes, I removed the hidden camera from my body. Everything that just happened, I live-streamed it all, ignoring Ryan. I walked straight to the tightly shut door and kicked it open with all my might. Bang! The gate crashed down straight, revealing a creepy male director in his 50s who had been hiding there all along. Ryan happened to rush in and, seeing the situation, immediately beat up the creepy man. I turned around and saw my parents' evasive glances. I was no longer disappointed. The police tipped them away on charges of poisoning. The incident caused a huge uproar online. My parents were sentenced to 3 years in prison, completely losing any chance of returning to the entertainment industry the day before flying abroad. I applied for a prison visit and saw my mother, who looked 10 years older. Her eyes were dull as she sneered at me through a glass barrier, then picked up the phone. You fool. From now on I'll be the stain you can never wash away. You'll have a knife in your back for the rest of your life. With a calm expression, I picked up the receiver and said just one sentence. 768249. Then I hung up the phone and turned to leave. My mother froze for a moment, then her eyes widened as she pounded on the glass, shouting at me. What do you mean? Spell it out. What do you mean? 768249. The password to Mother's safe. She mistakenly thought her husband had cracked the password. I left resolutely, without looking back. The next day, Ryan and I boarded a plane to a foreign country, beginning a new journey during college. I started a travel account where I posted videos of my travels around the world. I gradually built up a following and even secured sponsorships. After graduation, I successfully landed a job at a media company, thanks to the audience I had cultivated through my account. In our final year of college, Ryan earned the title of boyfriend through his own efforts. I have a new travel companion, but he rarely appears on camera, most of the time. He's behind the lens quietly helping me film and brainstorming new ideas with me. I don't actively keep up with what's happening back home, but I always get the latest gossip when chatting with classmates. My parents were released from prison, but now they're being sued again for failing to pay the breach of contract damages, getting tangled up in a new legal case. Netizens no longer call them the crazy couple. They now refer to them as completely unhinged. The entertainment industry has completely abandoned them. Even Kian was shut out along with them, unable to work as an actor. He started an account to become an influencer, and his account just had to be connected to mine, with the username, Ophelia's only brother. Don't worry, Ophelia, I've already organized our classmates to report him. If he dares to exploit you once, we'll report him every time. My heart instantly warmed up. Thank you. Meeting you all is my good fortune. Above, the sky is filled with auroras. Below, I'm held in a warm embrace. The days are long, and time moves slowly. Enjoy the present. Journey together. Story 2. The day before the apocalypse, I was in a large supermarket spending my generous severance package from my recent job loss. My parents had finally finished renovating our old family villa, and with the Chinese New Year a couple of months away, I, unfortunately, got laid off after 5 years of hard work at my company. This misfortune surprisingly equipped me with a fortress and ample supplies for the end times. If only it weren't for the bully next door. On the day I was let go, my boss said to me, Kendall, the company's severance package is very generous. I hope you won't dwell on it too much. Let's part on good terms and save face for both sides. It'll be less awkward if we bump into each other in the industry. His words were pretty, but wasn't it just because the boss's daughter and my boyfriend, who was also my manager, had a thing for each other and were eager to see me out? Ridiculous. Who would choose a lousy man over money? So, I took the money and left. These next few months weren't too long or too short, just enough time to go home and rest with my parents. Since I was going home, I couldn't shortchange myself, though I had already stocked up on familiar household items during the shopping festival, considering the 2-level basement at home used as a cellar. The inconvenient muddy roads that made deliveries a hassle, and my penchant for staying indoors, I felt I could shop a bit more. After a shopping spree, I drove my little cherry back to my hometown. It was my first time visiting the villa that had been built over 2 years ago. What a shock it was. Wow, the yard was over 500 square meters, surrounded by walls over 2 meters high, with explosion-proof gates and even an electric fence. Could this be a prison? "Ah, you're back," greeted my mother. "Mom, what's with these walls and this gate?" I asked, picking up my dropped jaw and looking around. The front yard was neatly arranged with 5 or 6 vegetable patches lush with greens, and there was a small fish pond in the southeast corner with several tilapias swimming around. "It's all because of that jerk Hugo next door." Hugo and his wife, both over 50, had a son named Hunter. They spoiled him rotten, and the young boy had already been in juvenile detention a few times. I was often bullied by him during my childhood, especially after starting middle school. As I grew up, he would whistle and follow me every time I went home, forcing my dad to pick me up early from school. After he was sentenced to 5 years for assault, I was finally free from him. Just thinking about his malicious gaze still sends shivers down my spine. That jerk climbed over the wall one day and tried to break into your dad's safe. Fortunately, the house had just been renovated and we hadn't bought much furniture yet, and the safe was just a cheap one given by the renovation company, so it was empty. The night we stayed at your Uncle G's place in the city, we came back the next day to find the house trashed. That jerk, failing to find any money, smashed all our windows. Your dad and I went to report it to the police, but that jerk had already run away. The local police know him well but can't do much about him. He was previously sentenced for a few years, but he hasn't changed at all. Hugo's parents are shameless, even coming to our doorstep to curse us, blaming us for driving their son away. Your dad was so angry he couldn't sleep for days. Mom continued as she led me into the house. Finally, your dad and I decided if we can't confront them, we can at least avoid them, so we raised the walls higher, installed an electric fence, and replaced the gate with the sturdiest one available. The contractor said that only a lot of explosives could break it. Even the windows have been replaced with bulletproof glass. We heard Hugo fled to Southeast Asia, where it's chaotic and war-torn, and guns are rampant. Who knows if that jerk might secretly get a gun and come back. In recent years, our family has been doing well, and many are envious. Listening to this, I felt tears welling up in my eyes. I had been so busy working away from home that I had neglected my parents far too much. "Mom, why didn't you tell me about something so serious? I would have brought you guys to the city the moment I knew that scoundrel was released. Wherever he goes, trouble follows. How's Dad? Is he feeling any better? I didn't see him at home. He's been fine for a while now. Your dad and I are both farmers, tough as old boots. Even if we feel under the weather, we get over it in a few days. Your dad left early this morning to pick up an old friend who's coming over. It's your Uncle Lee. Poor man, he's stayed loyal to the memory of his late wife for so many years, never remarried, doesn't even have children. He really only gets along with your dad. Also, the parcel we ordered has arrived. I asked him to bring it back with him. After changing upstairs, I followed Mom to sort out the basement. As she mentioned, we'd bought too much recently and hadn't organized it properly. When I saw the neatly arranged shelves in the basement, my jaw dropped again. The shelves were packed tightly with large packages of grains, oils, rice, noodles, and various household supplies like toilet paper, toothpaste, toothbrushes, shampoo, shower gel, and even the sanitary pads I usually use took up an entire shelf. In the corners, there were several large freezers, and the floor was covered with piles of unopened parcels. "Mom, why did you buy so much?" "There was a sale online a couple of months ago, much cheaper than buying from the stores downtown. You know we have the housewarming party after New Year, and the prices for these goods will skyrocket around then. It's better to buy them at a discount now and stock up. These items have long shelf lives. They'll last." My mom calculated the savings with gleaming eyes. We clearly got a great deal, seeing her so happy. I didn't bother discussing the economics of false savings with her and resignedly helped her sort through the parcels. Nothing is more precious than my mom's happiness. When she's happy, the whole family is happy. We kept busy sorting things out until noon, and by then, I was so tired I could barely straighten my back. While opening parcels is usually fun, doing it for 3 or 4 hours straight is quite painful. Fortunately, the basement was equipped with air conditioning and a ventilation system, so it wasn't too uncomfortable. After lunch, Dad still hadn't returned, so Mom decided to take me to clean the second basement level. That's when I noticed all the external units of our air conditioners were installed there. Mom explained that they used to be outside, but our neighbor Hugo had cut the wires several times. Complaining that the noise was too disturbing, he insisted that we couldn't install them outside. Between the lines, it was clear they wanted some sort of compensation for their mental anguish, otherwise, these AC units wouldn't be installed. These are minor issues. His family is all ruffians. It's not worth arguing with them. They have nothing to lose, and if things escalate, who knows what they might do to us. Remember old Mr. Lee from Dong Village? Grandpa Lee used to run a vineyard in Dong Village 2 years ago, when Hunter was freshly out of prison and loitering around the village. He noticed that Grandpa Lee had just received a cash payment for his grapes. The old man didn't use mobile payments and carried cash. The sight of the shiny new bills tempted Hunter, and that night, he sneaked into Lee's house and stole tens of thousands of yuan. The next day, Grandpa Lee and his family came with the police to confront Hunter, but he had fled overnight. Hugo and his wife refused to disclose their son's whereabouts, insisting Hunter wasn't the thief. Without any evidence, Hunter had left neither footprints nor fingerprints at the scene. The police couldn't do much, emotions ran high, and in the ensuing chaos, who threw the first punch was unclear, but Hugo ended up in the hospital with a few bruises to his chest. Although the injuries were minor, Hugo used this as leverage to extort money and goods from the Lee family for years. Only early last year, when Grandpa Lee's health truly deteriorated, did he sell his vineyard and went traveling? Hugo wanted to continue causing trouble, but Lee's younger son, tired of the extortion, resigned from his public service job to start a business, and Hugo finally backed down. 5. These recent events really made your father and me think. Over the past few years, we've leased out all our land except for the orchard on the back hill. Your dad and I are planning to travel around since you're working in the city and no one's at home. The external unit of the air conditioner being mounted on the outside wall is a potential hazard. Who knows if Hunter, when he's out of money, might dismantle it to sell, and what if it falls while he's taking it down? Anyway, there's room in the basement. I've installed separate ventilation and soundproofing there. It's even better than the upstairs soundproofing, so it won't disturb us, a small expense to avoid a big problem. The second basement level doesn't have air conditioning. Only a ventilation system, so we didn't store any food there, just some of my dad's tools and farming equipment. There weren't many things, and we didn't tidy up much. My mom saw it was about time to cook, so she went to prepare food, and I went upstairs to comfortably soak in a bath. After I was all settled, I took up my phone to watch some videos but instead saw a glaring headline on a video sharing platform: Zombie Siege. The apocalypse has arrived. A virus resembling that of zombies is spreading in our city. Please be cautious and avoid going out unless absolutely necessary. This morning, a person suspected of having rabies bit several people in a busy district. Duty officers and several civilians subdued him, and the injured have been taken to the hospital, one after another. Videos of bloody, terrifying zombie attacks filled my screen, making me think, it's December, not April Fools, when I opened WeChat. The residents' group chat of our neighborhood was in uproar. I heard that a rabies-infected person bit someone on the pedestrian street. It took an officer and 4 or 5 strong men nearly couldn't hold him down. Look at the entrance of our complex. Isn't that the owner from Building 6? His arm is so badly injured. Why isn't he going to the hospital to get it bandaged? Oh dear, there's so much blood. That's a zombie. The owner from Building 6 has turned. He just bit the security guard at the gate. Everyone get home. Don't go out. Message after message. Video after video. I had no choice but to believe it. The apocalypse was really here. 6. I was thinking about calling my dad to ask him to come back when I heard the engine of the old Jean Bay van. I turned around to see my dad hadn't even turned off the car engine and was frantically closing the gate. Dad also looked back and called out, "Kendall, come help Daddy close the gate. It's dangerous outside. There are zombies biting people." Dad ranted and raved for a while, startling my mom. I quickly gestured to my dad to calm down. First we thoroughly locked the gate, then electrified the fence on top of the wall, and when we got back inside, we locked all the windows and drew the curtains. My mom, who used to suffer from mild neurasthenia due to job stress years ago, couldn't sleep with any light, so all our curtains were blackout curtains. After finishing all this, I returned to the ground floor, where my mom was softly comforting my dad. I showed my mom the short videos on my phone. Thankfully, I had reacted quickly and saved them. They must have been taken down by now, as they were really too gory. Even if not manually reviewed, the algorithms would recognize it. Dad took a sip of water and slowly began. This morning, I first went to the courier station to pick up a package. Then after lunch, I went to the highway exit to meet Old Lee. He just took early retirement and had planned to come over to fish and relax for a few days, but he was delayed way past our agreed time, and I thought it unsafe to call him on the highway, so I just patiently waited. Just now, I saw his car and noticed he seemed injured. When he handed over his card at the highway exit, I saw blood on his hand. I was in my car and started it when I saw his, thinking we'd head back together. But then the toll booth girl saw the blood and called over a colleague. I heard them dialing for emergency help. Old Lee, sitting in his car, had his eyes wide open, looking listless and almost unconscious, with his clothes half soaked in blood. I was about to get out to check on him when Old Lee suddenly burst out of his car and bit the toll booth girl on the neck, tearing off a large chunk of flesh. The blood splattered high, and that little girl was gone in an instant. Even several young men couldn't hold him down. I was so terrified I couldn't move, not to mention Oldley with all his ailments. Even if he was 20 years younger, he wouldn't have that kind of strength. That's when I thought of the zombies from the movies. I corrected my dad. Not zombies, but the undead, my dad said. Oh right, the undead, my dad continued. It wasn't long before that girl, the one Oldley had bitten, she stood up too, after she got up. She bit the closest young man to her. I couldn't hesitate any longer. I floored the accelerator and headed home. After finishing his story, my dad covered his face and cried silently. It's heartbreaking to see a lifelong friend pass away right before your eyes in such a manner. I suspect Uncle Lee must have been attacked at the service area because it's only less than a 10-minute drive from the nearest highway exit to my place. Moreover, Uncle Lee must have been attacked by an undead that hadn't fully mutated, thinking it wasn't serious, or planning to deal with it after getting off the highway. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to drive on the highway. From this situation, I presume that by tonight, our area will definitely see the undead. There's no time left. It's 3:30 in the afternoon now. I immediately got up and went upstairs to the living room, gathered my college computer and the old TV we had at home. Then I woke my father from his sorrow, asking him to display the surveillance footage on the big screen. As my mom and I know nothing about these things, we had to rely on my dad. I then ran to the basement, rummaged through my dad's tools to see if there was anything that could be used as a weapon. Even if it couldn't kill the undead, it could still fend off malevolent people in these dire times. I have never forgotten that human nature is the most terrifying. After searching for a while, I only found a small hatchet and 2 firewood knives that could barely be used. Everything else was too cumbersome and not suitable for weapons. Suddenly, I spotted several large barrels of high-proof liquor and about 20 cases of branded liquor next to them, which my dad had kept for hosting guests during important events. Without hesitation, I pulled over a small cart and moved the liquor upstairs, grabbing a few bottles of turpentine along the way. I still remember my high school history teacher telling us about the use of Molotov cocktails during the Spanish Civil War. It was interesting, so I remembered it well. I went to my mom's room, grabbed several large pieces of cotton cloth and cut them with scissors. Then, I gathered some empty beer bottles my dad had finished and made a few simple Molotov cocktails. I originally thought of testing their power, but I was afraid that the noise would attract unwanted attention, so I had to give up. But having these things made me feel somewhat more secure. When I went back upstairs, I found my dad had already connected all the wires, and the surveillance video from various angles was clearly displayed on the screen. I took stock of our supplies. In life, one cannot do without food and water. For food, we don't have to worry. Thanks to my mom, the storeroom in the basement has enough supplies to last us until the year after next. For water, our house has 3 water pipes. One is the village tap water, which I don't expect to last more than a few days. One is connected to the old well at the old house, retained mainly because of the large water consumption of my dad's fish pond. I was concerned about the water quality from the well, so I took advantage of a sale and bought a commercial water purifier. The last one is connected to a spring that was directed from the orchard behind our villa. The hill isn't very high, but the water quality is exceptional. The spring water was discovered by my mom by accident, and after my dad had it tested, he found it not only met drinking standards but was also rich in minerals. The flow is quite low, so we haven't told others about the spring water on the hill. My dad uses it to brew tea, while my mom uses it for cooking and making soup. As for the restroom, when the orchard was just set up, my grandfather started a pig farm at the foot of the hill. However, after the price of live pigs plummeted and my grandfather's health declined, after we stopped raising pigs, my grandfather built a septic tank at the foot of the mountain to handle the pig manure and to make it easier to fertilize the fruit trees. When we were installing sewage pipes during the villa renovation, because the pipes had to pass by Hugo's house, my mom, not wanting to deal with the hassle, directly connected the sewage pipes to the septic tank. Now, I think I should actually thank Hugo for that. Regarding electricity, when the villa was first being renovated, a distant relative who sold solar panels came to pitch his product. My dad, who was a bit clueless without my mom around, agreed to let him install the panels. When my mom came back and saw what had been done, and that a 5-year contract had been signed, both she and I were furious. I had originally planned to set up a swing and create a rooftop garden. I remember being very angry with my dad at the time, and now I think it was a blessing that my mom wasn't home then. Thinking of this, I quickly had my dad connect the solar panel wires to the main switch of the house. Previously, the village had low voltage, and although we bought a transformer, it wasn't used because the village soon upgraded the voltage. My mom had it installed when we were setting up the plumbing and electrical systems. Thankfully keeping to her habit of not wasting anything, now we have all the basic necessities we need, what's left is for entertainment. I took out the tablet and all the smartphones to start downloading various TV shows, movies, and documentaries. I also found a few USB drives to download not only films but also a variety of ebooks. During this time, I moved all the parcels from my dad's car to the basement. By the time everything was sorted, it was already 8 p.m. At that moment, standing in the yard listening to screams and shouts coming from the village, I felt utterly calm inside. Our family, with my mom not in good health and my dad getting older, can only rely on me, and I'm no miraculous savior, I'm just an ordinary person. All I want is to strive to survive with my family. I turned back, entered the house, and shut the door, cutting off all outside noise. After a distracted dinner, we sat in the living room on the second floor, watching the surveillance videos. Our house is somewhat secluded, set back a bit from the main road, and so far, no zombies had appeared. Hugo, the old man living nearest to us, had gone out to check the noises, returned pale and panicked, and quickly locked himself in his home. We don't really have any close relatives to contact. Both my parents were only children, and I'm their only child. All my grandparents had passed away long ago. The rest of the relatives had already shown their true colors when my dad mentioned borrowing money to build the villa. Just to be cautious, I had already warned my parents about the unpredictability of human nature. We could save one person but not a crowd. In these apocalyptic times, preserving ourselves is crucial. We absolutely must not let danger into our home. My parents understood. Initially, we had never intended to build a villa. It was too showy, and neither of my parents liked that. It was only because the village needed to clear the land for road construction, taking over the old tile-roofed house that had stood vacant for years. All of my parents' money was tied up in fixed deposits at the bank. I had just quit my job to switch companies and hadn't yet settled into the new one, so we couldn't immediately access much cash. After asking all our relatives, not one was willing to lend us money. The most disheartening was my dad's cousin. In the past, both families had struggled, and my dad, remembering how his cousin had a tough time at her in-laws, scrimped and saved to buy her a nice coat for the new year. When her son was performing poorly in school, my dad went out of his way to get him into a good school and even secured him a job in a large company. Over the years, my dad was always the first to help his cousin whenever she called. I had expressed my dissatisfaction, but my dad said they were family, and the good he did for them today would be repaid to us in the future. This was his belief as I was growing up and would one day marry. My parents are no longer around, but I still have an aunt and a supportive older brother. Unexpectedly, my parents even showed her their bank book. Yet that distant aunt still claimed she had no money to lend and immediately signed up her family of 5 for a luxurious tour of 7 European countries. She flaunted her shopping spree at luxury stores on social media. If it weren't for my cousin's boss coincidentally running into my father and mentioning that my cousin must have won the lottery, we would still be in the dark. You can block someone on social media, but you can't block them from your social circle. In a fit of anger, my parents decided to build a beautiful villa to show those opportunistic relatives. Now that we are facing a major crisis, no one can blame us for only looking after ourselves. I moved my gaming chair out of my room and agreed with my parents that starting tonight, I would take the night shift, my dad the day shift, and my mom would take care of our daily needs. After discussing, I sent them off to sleep. Even if they couldn't sleep, they needed to rest. The end times have begun ringing, and the future will be a prolonged battle. We need to be well rested to face it. At night, I monitored the cameras while browsing videos online, where people were either genuinely seeking help and supplies or just trying to gain attention and increase their followers. Suddenly, a post caught my eye, written by someone called the Irresponsible Newshound. The post analyzed that, based on the available data, this zombie outbreak was global. Outbreaks had already occurred in Western countries, and only the reduction of international flights due to the pandemic had delayed the outbreak here. The domestic outbreak was traced back to a dog, which had escaped after being infected abroad and was picked up and sent back to China by a Chinese student. The first reports of zombie attacks involved the student's parents. The virus didn't just appear out of nowhere. The only medical records available for the student's parents were of a rabies vaccination after being bitten by the rabid dog. The author also posted the elderly couple's vaccination records and hospital surveillance footage from the day, mentioning that he had noticed zombies abroad long before. These videos were often considered pranks abroad and were not taken seriously or dealt with. He expressed his frustration that despite knowing disaster was imminent, no one believed him, and instead, they called him crazy. So, he returned to his hometown alone, stockpiled a large amount of supplies, hoping to safely survive the apocalypse. This person is extraordinary. That was my first impression. Insightful, meticulous, and technically proficient enough to hack into hospital records to obtain vaccination records and surveillance footage. Thinking about it, there must be many such people, especially since some bloggers abroad had already been advising people to stock up on food and stay home under the guise of the COVID-19 pandemic. Although they weren't as straightforward as this news hound, it also reminded me to be wary of animal transmission of the zombie virus, similar to how the virus in the movie Train to Busan originated from a dead deer. I checked the news hound's account. The IP was shown as being from a major coastal city, obviously altered to mislead others, because that city had fallen by dawn, and this post was published at 4 in the morning. Until 6. The comments were mocking and accusing the author of exploiting the situation for traffic. After 6, the comments were all about worshipping the genius and begging for supplies. The top comment was from an ID called Survivor's Tribe, with a picture comment showing a warehouse full of supplies. They even posted an address at a certain university in the city, calling for survivors to gather together to resist the zombies and rebuild their homeland. I shook my head. It was too juvenile. Like children playing make-believe, today is the first day of the zombie outbreak, and many people have survived, not to mention how people are supposed to break through the zombies to reach their destination or calculate how long these supplies can sustain people. Once people gathered, who would lead them? How would order be re-established? A few students who only know theory couldn't possibly handle it. And who could guarantee that everyone would be as enthusiastic and selflessly dedicated as these students, after all, in places where the law does not reach? Might makes right. It's a mistake for a group of naive students to possess and publicize such a wealth of resources. All I can do is silently pray for them. Nothing happened overnight, but it wasn't until the early morning that I heard my mom's voice saying that my dad had developed a fever, having witnessed a zombie attack and under immense stress. Even my dad, who is usually in good health, couldn't cope, especially since we hadn't stocked up on any medicine at home. My mom and I searched the entire basement, only to find a bunch of masks, disinfectant, diarrhea medicine, and a few boxes of herbal tonic. Due to the pandemic, it had been a long time since we last bought fever medicine. Not even cold medicine was available. My mom had no choice but to sit by the bed and repeatedly wipe my dad's body to cool him down. Fortunately, by dusk, his fever had subsided. I was both tired and hungry, but I had no appetite at all. I cooked some porridge for my dad, and my mom and I just settled for some frozen dumplings. That evening, Mom suggested she would watch over him for the first half of the night and I could take over for the second half. I initially disagreed. Staying up all night for several days in a row is normal for me when rushing work projects, so staying up for 2 nights was nothing. However, Mom strongly objected. When you're at work, I don't interfere, but when you're at home, you have to listen to me. How can you ruin your health, being a young lady? Besides, your dad is sick, and if anything happens, we would still need you to handle it. Although I haven't been very healthy these past few years, missing a few hours of sleep won't kill me. I've warmed some milk for you. It's by your bedside. Go drink it and sleep. Unable to argue with her, I went back to my room to sleep, but once I closed the door, I couldn't stop my tears from flowing. Throughout these years of working alone away from home, I've been frustrated with my mom for only being concerned about my marriage. I always held a grudge at work, wanting to prove to my mom that I could do well without getting married or relying on a man, but I had ignored my parents' feelings. They treated my cousins well simply because they didn't want me to be alone after they were gone. Others only see the designer bags I bought or the deals I closed. But only my parents worried about how many nights I stayed up and how much trouble I faced from clients. They were the ones concerned about whether I was being bullied, whether I had enough to eat or warm clothes to wear. I tried hard to hold back my tears, obediently drank the milk, and went to sleep. My dad's illness made me realize how important it is to maintain a healthy body. We didn't have medicine. We couldn't afford to get sick. It looks like I need to make a fitness plan tomorrow. With these thoughts, I fell into a deep sleep. I woke up at 7 in the morning, springing out of bed like a coil. After quickly freshening up and opening the door, I saw that my dad was already up and had prepared breakfast with Mom. Come on, get up. Dad made breakfast today. Come and have some. I obediently sat at the dining table, noticing that although Dad still looked a bit frail, he was in good spirits. Dad, how are you feeling? Why don't you rest a bit more, Mom? Weren't you supposed to wake me up for my shift? It's okay. Your dad is better now. I'll go to sleep in a bit. I promise not to be a burden. Today, you take the morning shift, and let your dad take the afternoon shift. But I think we don't need to keep watch all night. It's too exhausting in the long run. I just went up to the roof to check, and zombies only appear near the main road in our village. Our house is still safe for now. Plus, our surveillance cameras have an alarm function, don't they? We can just sleep with our phones on, and if zombies approach, we'll know. I thought about it, but still felt it wasn't enough. Just like locks on the doors, surveillance is meant to deter honest people, not the dishonest ones. Right now, I'm not afraid of zombies. Mom, did anyone see you hoarding all that food back then? Well, I don't think so. You know, the owner of the grain and oil store down the street has been friends with your dad for over a decade. I bought so much online this time, worried that it might be awkward if the owner saw, so I covered everything with a tarp and pulled it back. If anyone asks, we say it's fertilizer for the orchard. I don't think anyone noticed. It's reasonable to be worried. It's always better to be cautious just in case. But you don't need to work all night, I'll take over at 3 o'clock. From the afternoon to early morning, we'll switch shifts periodically, that's settled. With Dad being firm, I had no choice but to agree. After breakfast, I urged my parents to rest and sat in front of the surveillance system to reopen the post I saw the other night. The author newshound hadn't replied yet, but the popular comment under Survivor Tribe was quite lively. The comments were mostly accusations and curses. It seemed that people really did follow the address, only to be turned away at the door and have all their supplies taken. Someone even mentioned that his girlfriend was allowed in, but he wasn't, and he was angrily questioning why. It looked like some people had managed to get in first, and maybe the original group of students had been taken over by them. Who knows if those now in the school are human or something else? I was going to comment to remind everyone, but then I thought better of it. The more you say, the more mistakes you make. Some people can even hack the medical system, so they might be able to see my home's situation through surveillance. They would definitely see that we've bought a lot of supplies. It's better to keep a low profile and protect ourselves wisely. 14. As noon approached, my parents got up and started cooking lunch in the kitchen. Suddenly, I smelled smoke. I couldn't see anything on the surveillance, so I cautiously pulled back the curtain to look, and it seemed like the village was on fire. With thick smoke and flames reaching the sky, I rushed to the third floor and, using the parapet and solar panels for cover, crouched down to look outside. It was the old mute man's house in the village center, a wooden structure, small building from the late Qing dynasty, typical of that area. Here, with our subtropical monsoon climate, winters are mild and dry, and the fire, fueled by the wind, grew fiercer, drawing zombies towards its center. I could hear many cries for help, but the distance was too great to see clearly. I could only be thankful that we were upwind, safe from the fire's reach. Then Dad came up too, holding a pair of binoculars. I had bought them in my freshman year when I joined the birdwatching society, economizing to afford them, but I had a falling out with a senior in the society and quit, tossing the binoculars away in anger. Seeing my puzzled look, Dad explained, I was about to throw them away, but your mom found them while throwing out the trash and thought they were toy binoculars. They looked quite new, so she planned to keep them to give to your cousin's son to play with. I later saw them in the storeroom and picked them up. Seeing how upset you were, I didn't tell you. I never thought they'd come in handy today. I took the binoculars, adjusted them, and saw someone rush out from the alley behind the old mute man's house. The person, with blonde hair, was skinny and ragged, holding a blood-stained machete that still gleamed silver, though it was unclear whether the blood was from a human or a zombie. The blonde pulled out a small speaker from his pocket, turned it on, threw it on the ground, and walked away without looking back, leaving the speaker flashing colorful lights on the ground. This blonde seemed familiar, but I couldn't recall where I had seen him before. 15. However, with all the commotion, the zombies in the village had all gathered in the center, making our position on the outskirts even safer, but this would definitely lead to an exponential increase in the number of zombies in the village. The thick smoke didn't enter the respiratory tract, but it could still suffocate a person. In the center of the village, those who survived either suffocated, were devoured, or turned into zombies. Thus, it was only a matter of time before zombies spread to the vicinity of my home. I handed the binoculars to my dad with a worried heart, and he recognized the blonde guy right away. That's the notorious troublemaker from the next village. He dropped out of school around the age of 15 or 16 and always tagged along behind Hunter. Once my dad mentioned it, I remembered the guy. He was 2 grades above me, famous throughout the school for breaking a classmate's ribs. I remembered him because he almost raped my desk mate. The blonde guy and my desk mate came from the same village. She was an art student who transferred back from the city because of the middle school exams and needed to return to her registered residence, so she transferred back in the 2nd semester of 8th grade. Our middle school was a boarding school, and we had weekends off. She would first go to her grandmother's house on the weekends, return to the city on Saturday, and come back to school on Sunday afternoon. That time, because her uncle's birthday was on a Friday, her father and brother came back early to pick her up. While passing by the village temple, they saw her backpack. Worried, they got out of the car and after searching, they found that the beast had tied up my desk mate. At that time, my desk mate's grandmother, not having seen her come home, came to ask if her granddaughter was at my place. I went out with her to look for her, which is how I came to know about these things. Because the blonde guy was a minor and it was attempted crime, he received a light sentence. Later, my desk mate transferred schools and even moved her household registration to her grandmother's place. The blonde guy's father pulled some strings and had him sent to a psychiatric hospital. Although many years have passed, that fierce face still haunted me in my nightmares for several days. The figure of the blonde guy gradually merged with the person in my memories. Oh no, if the blonde guy is here, then Hunter must have come back too. Indeed, a small car took advantage of the gap when the zombies gathered in the village center and swiftly drove up the muddy road, stopping in front of Hugo's house. Hunter and the blonde guy stepped out from the driver and passenger seats, followed by 2 unfamiliar men and a little girl from the back seat. The girl looked to be about 14 or 15, wearing a shiny pink hairpin and a princess dress. carrying a matching pink suitcase. But draped in a men's jacket, the girl seemed quite lively, hopping around the four of them. The blonde guy said to the girl, "Laurel, see, I told you Hunter wouldn't leave us behind." Then he affectionately kissed her on the cheek, indicating a close relationship between the two. However, the two other guys behind them, seemingly jealous, kept holding the girl's hand. Is this what young girls are into these days? But given the current situation, it seems the zombies outside blocked Hunter's path. So the blonde guy went to set a fire to distract the zombies. If it were me, I'd probably try to lure the zombies away too, but why start a fire in someone's house when there's so much straw around the village that could be burned? Hunter casually walked to Hugo's door, knocking and calling for his parents to open it. Hugo and his wife were naturally thrilled to see their son and hurriedly welcomed them inside. However, before entering, Hunter disdainfully glanced at his own home's barely 1-meter-tall wall, then turned back and pensively stared at our house. My heart sank. Hunter, I don't provoke others unless provoked, but if provoked, I will certainly retaliate. In this apocalypse, even a rabbit will bite when cornered. I hope you don't seek your own demise. I went back to the second floor with my dad and told them Hunter had returned, bringing 3 young men with him, given the look Hunter gave before entering his house. I had a feeling he had plans for our house, especially since the solar panels on our rooftop were highly valuable in these end times. Thinking it over, I felt it was best to prepare early. While discussing, my mom cheerily brought up a cardboard box filled with little chicks. She found them in the orchard where some hen had made a nest and laid a batch of eggs, which attracted a bunch of other hens to lay their eggs there too. Mom returned the unfertilized eggs to Aunt Six, who raised chickens, but kept a dozen fertilized ones. My mom, though skilled at raising chickens, was a novice at incubating eggs found in the wild. We didn't have high hopes initially, so Dad just set up an incandescent light over the eggs and occasionally flipped them without paying much further attention, leaving them in a corner of the kitchen. It was only today when I heard the chirping sounds that I remembered about the eggs. Seeing my parents happily discussing how to care for the chicks, my mood lightened significantly. I wish these simple, warm moments could last forever, but we still had to face reality. Hugo's house is only 1 story and sits lower than ours. From his roof, looking towards our yard, you can only see the fruit trees, not even the fish pond that's a meter high. However, from our place, not only can we see Hugo's entire property, we even have a camera pointed directly at his front door, adjusted just so he wouldn't notice. It's a pity we can't hear inside his house. If we could listen in on their conversations and understand their plans, we could be better prepared. After lunch, I went back to sleep, given that I saw Hunter loading up his car with plenty of supplies, and with utilities still running, a young girl and his elderly parents with him. From what I know of him, he's probably busy enjoying himself and won't be bothering us for now. Someone who's spent a lifetime sneaking around and has been in jail surely knows how to handle a reinforced door and an electrified fence. We're safe until he figures out how to bypass those. I woke up at 7 p.m. The fire in the village had died down, suggesting the wooden houses had burned down, and the concrete ones, lacking flammable exteriors, had stopped the fire from spreading. That's when I noticed the phone lines were down and the electricity was out, possibly due to the afternoon fire damaging the wires. Dad switched on the solar panels. Thankfully, winters here in Lingnan aren't too harsh, and we only needed to keep the freezer, fridge, and the grid powered. I grabbed an outdoor battery, typically used by Dad in the orchard, but now repurposed for heating my bath water. Apparently, transitioning from luxury to simplicity is much harder than the reverse. I just can't stand cold showers anymore. After my shower, I saw Mom talking to Dad in front of the surveillance screen. It's such a sin. That little girl is only a few years old. These bastards have no fear of divine retribution. What happened? Mom, what divine retribution? It turns out that the village water supply was cut off earlier, and while Mom sneaked out to the garden, she overheard Mrs. Hugo and the girl coming out to draw water. The Hugos have a well in their yard, and though there was a power outage, they still had a hand-pumped water extractor, a common fixture in our area. Unfortunately, their hand pump hadn't been used in a long time, and Mrs. Hugo made the girl try to operate the rusty pump. The girl, lacking the strength, struggled, and Mrs. Hugo, lowering her voice, began to scold her harshly. At first, the girl softly objected, but that only made Mrs. Hugo angrier, and soon there were sounds of slaps followed by the girl's soft crying. Mom sighed deeply. When I first married your dad, Hugo was only a few months old. When you were born, he used to follow me around asking when you'd start calling him uncle. No matter how many wrongs he's done over the years, and no matter how angry I've been, I've always hoped he'd settle down and straighten out his life. No, I just hope God takes him away. He's ruined a little girl's life. Upon hearing this, alarms went off in my head. Mom hadn't seen the girl getting out of the car that day, but Dad and I exchanged knowing looks, and he immediately started consoling Mom quietly while I decided to speak up. Mom, let me put things into perspective. If there hadn't been a zombie outbreak, students wouldn't be on holiday yet, right? Our nearby schools are mostly boarding schools, releasing students for a break either weekly or monthly. The girl was wearing a dress from a niche foreign brand, inexpensive but hard to come by. I've only seen it once on a client's daughter, and her handbag was from the same series. What does that tell us? What does that show? It shows that this little girl comes from a good family and that she sneaked out on her own. She's either skipping school or running away from home. I concluded, if she was abducted from school or on her way to or from school, she should be wearing a uniform. Why would she be dressed in a beautiful princess dress, carrying a lovely bag, and wearing a pretty hair clip? That's clearly an outfit for a date. If I'm not mistaken, one of them, maybe Hunter, met this girl online. How else could a girl from her background come into contact with someone like Hunter? They gained her trust, and she willingly went with them. Is this true? How could this little girl trust strangers so easily? Her parents must be so worried. Mom was clearly putting herself in the situation. So I asked at the right moment, Mom, what would you do if I, at the age of 14 or 15, stopped attending school and ran off with a man carrying my bags? You dare, and I'll break your legs and never let you through this door again. I'd say it's like raising a thankless child. After all, she was deceived. Mom, do you remember when I impulsively applied for a QQ account in middle school and someone messaged me to hang out? Did I decisively block and delete them? And even turned it into a joke to tell you. I took a sip of tea. Dad's tea-making skills are getting better. Actually, at 14 or 15, one already has a clear sense of judgment. Teachers at school also constantly warn everyone not to trust so-called friends online easily. I didn't expect to see this kind of thing happening today. This little girl comes from a wealthy family. She isn't lacking material things. Just look at her dress. It's more expensive than all 4 of Hunter's outfits put together, to put it bluntly. Even though she knew these 4 were no good and poor, she still followed Hunter without looking back. Why feel sympathy for such a girl? Besides, if this girl had the courage to go with Hunter and his group, it shows she's not exactly innocent. Maybe she's enjoying the feeling of being treated like a queen. To be honest, if 4 men showed interest in me at the same time, appealing to my vanity, I might also lose my head and run off with them. However, Hunter and yellow hair don't qualify as men, they are more like beasts. So, Mom, don't be fooled by her. This might be a scheme from the other side, trying to make you pity that little girl. Watch, in a few days, that little girl will come crying for help, tricking you into letting her in, and then she'll collaborate with Hunter to swindle our house and possessions. Seeing Mom's shocked and incredulous face, I continued, do you think my middle school desk mate transferred just because? Her grandmother lives in a province famous for arts exams. It was because a jealous classmate spread rumors about her, leading other girls to ostracize her. Girls today are very cunning. You've dealt with deceitful traitors all your life. Don't let this little girl capsize us in a ditch. Although my comments were malicious speculations, school violence is real, and my desk mate really did transfer, for now. As long as I can keep my mom convinced, that's enough. It's all a ruse. The tears of that little girl, I've seen them all before. Seeing Mom nod solemnly, I finally felt relieved. Turning around, I saw Dad had partially opened the curtains and was using binoculars to look towards the village center. After a long moment, he turned back with a sigh. I took the binoculars and looked too. A scene of ruins, the remaining flames casting shadows of wandering zombies. It's all gone, nothing left. The mute old man had just had his adopted son come back from finishing his college internship, and 6 auntie living next to the mute old man, her daughter and grandchild were staying at her mother's house. If the fire hadn't started, I could still deceive myself, thinking that everyone else was alive and well like us. So many years of neighbors, we used to see each other every day. I was also filled with mixed emotions, but still spoke up to comfort my parents, then sent them back to sleep. Late at night, I was playing a game on my phone when Hugo, as expected, stirred up trouble. The young girl, not even wearing a jacket, grabbed her luggage and headed out the door, but unfortunately, she was caught before she could even reach the gate and was dragged back. Don't blame me for being heartless, after all. In the company, I have personally sent away dozens of young interns fresh out of school. If this had happened 3 years ago, I might have been moved by someone else's tears, but now my heart has become as cold and hard as the stone lions at the entrance of a bank in winter. Throughout the night, aside from Hugo's feigned distress act, only 2 or 3 zombies were lured over by the neighborhood cats. After the cats left, the zombies disappeared too. In the morning, when my dad came over to take over, I told him to keep a special eye on Hugo before I went to catch up on some sleep. Thus, we lived in peace until the 6th day after the zombie outbreak, which also happened to be the last day of the calendar year. Tonight was New Year's Eve. Besides Hugo occasionally making his presence felt, the frequency of zombie appearances in our vicinity had increased. Luckily, always diverted by the stray cats, our family had adapted to this post-apocalyptic life. My mom tended chickens and grew vegetables daily, and since my dad had fixed an old radio, he spent his days tinkering with whatever he could find, like the sewing machine that came as part of my mom's dowry. This peaceful scene was disrupted at dusk by a brilliant sunset, so stunningly beautiful that I took many photos with my camera. Hugo's girl showed up at our doorstep, her clothes tattered and torn. Still, she came, these days, without water, electricity, or internet. It's surprising Hunter lasted this long. Is anyone there? Please, I need help. They tricked me. Please, save me. Open the door. I managed to escape after getting them drunk today. Please help me. Once they sober up, I'm done for. At that moment, our family was calmly eating dinner upstairs. You need a full stomach to fight. The surveillance clearly captured the girl's figure, but despite her hoarsely shouting outside, we paid her no heed. Half an hour later, we had finished our dinner. And the girl, unable to wait any longer, picked up a stone and threw it at the window, but it didn't even leave a scratch. Frustrated, she turned and left. Not long after, Hugo's window opened, and several people stood there. I cracked open a window on the second floor and faintly heard some voices. Mom and Dad, are you sure the Kendall's family still has a lot of supplies? Laurel has been crying at their door for a long time. But no one has come out, Hunter asked. That should be right. Last week I saw Grayson driving a small truck full of parcels back home. No mistake, from last month the Kendall's couple has been continuously buying a lot of stuff, including grains and oil. They even said it was fertilizer. Why would they bring fertilizer back home instead of taking it to the fields? I just happened to pass by their house when I went to dig onions, and oh, it was all food and supplies. Their daughter also came back. Her car packed with expensive snacks from the supermarket. They have electricity again. It must be that girl who spilled the beans. Otherwise, given the character of the Kendall's couple, how could they not come out to open the door? What are you talking about, you old hag? The girl cursed loudly. I'm telling you, if it wasn't because you're Hunter's mother, do you think I would tolerate your baseless slander? The rest of the conversation was highly inappropriate, and I stopped listening as it wouldn't pass moderation. The argument grew louder and even attracted two zombies, which Hunter, annoyed, dealt with a slap each. TSK, hitting his own mother. Hunter isn't afraid of being struck by lightning. However, the noise did die down, and the zombies had already climbed over Hugo's low courtyard wall. We were almost inside the house. In my heart, I was silently urging, bite him to death. Eat him, and then I won't have to live in constant fear, unfortunately. At the last second, a fruit knife was thrust straight out of the window, stabbing right through the zombie's eye. It was Blondie, and then his two minions also came out, armed with a hoe and a shovel, and killed the other zombie. My mother saw this, gasped softly, and couldn't bear to watch anymore. Even though I knew these were zombies, they still looked human, and seeing how efficiently Blondie and his crew took them down, I couldn't help but feel a sinking feeling in my heart. It seems the good die young and the wicked live forever. With their level of combat ability, how could I ever compete with them? Meanwhile, Hunter strutted out confidently, stepping on the courtyard wall and shouting to us, Grayson, I know you're home, and I mean no harm, no, within miles. Your place is the only one with electricity and food. You wouldn't want to see us starve, right? With that, he reached towards his waist and placed something on the wall. The man had actually brought back a gun, and to prove his point, he fired it into the air. How about that, Grayson? I put quite some effort into this. Not bad. We're all neighbors here. I don't want to spill blood, so give me 10 minutes to open the door and let me in, or it won't be so polite when I let myself in. As soon as he finished speaking, Blondie drove their car to the base of the courtyard wall, and his two followers brought out an aluminum ladder wrapped in layers of cardboard. Hunter climbed onto the roof of the car, looking proudly over the courtyard, and commented, Oh, you've even planted some vegetables. Grayson, don't be scared. I've cut countless power grids in Southeast Asia. We're experienced in this. Old Mrs. Hugo also came out to encourage. Right, son, hurry and cut it. Why should they indulge while we barely have any rice left to cook? The young girl climbed onto the car roof and cooed at Hunter. Hunter, if they have electricity, they must have hot water. Everyone here hasn't bathed in a long time and stink. Hurry, cut the line so they can have a decent shower. Inside the house, we were frantic. Hunter had been planning to wrap the ladder these past few days. No wonder he wasn't in a rush even though he had a gun. I had thought that since they had a ladder and we had pitchforks, if they dared to cut it, we would strike them down. If worst comes to worst, I still had Molotov cocktails, though I hadn't tested them and was unsure. But now, we might be shot like sieves the moment we showed our heads. What should we do? Kendall, are we really going to hand over the house just like that? This is the lifelong effort of your father and me. I can't bear to let it go. My mom cried. I'm afraid even if we willingly give up the house, he won't spare us. He's a thankless wretch. He abuses even his parents who treated him like an emperor. He won't let us off easy. My dad took a deep breath. If it comes down to it, we'll fight to the death. It's either them or us now. Tears and sobs. My mom said, as long as we're together, even if we die, we won't be alone on the road. Mom and Dad. What are you talking about? Things haven't gotten that bad yet. Let me think. Outside, due to Hunter's loud shouting, a few more zombies were drawn to the scene, but without exception, they were all killed by the 3 blonde men. My location is too remote. It would be great if more zombies could show up. Suddenly, an idea struck me, and I asked my mom to bring over the raw meat and the leftovers from tonight's dinner from the fridge. Then, I turned on the surveillance speaker and microphone and said to Hunter, "Don't be rash. Let's talk this through. The electric fence is working fine. Cutting it won't give you peace of mind if you decide to move in. You can have the house if you want it. It's just been renovated and it's still missing some small items. I'm not comfortable living here anyway." Hunter laughed even more wildly, always so sensible. "It wasn't for nothing that I followed and protected you every day when you were in school. But why should I believe that you'd just hand over the house to me? Protected me. It was clear you had ulterior motives, and now you want my house. Dream on. Look, I'm just a woman, and both my parents are ill. We have no ability to resist. What's there to worry about? Let's do this. I'll cut the power to the electric fence. Could you give me a little more time to gather some medicine for my parents' blood pressure? Our family doesn't have much, but we do have some meat stored. I'll lower it from the window for you guys to eat first. Speaking of which..." I lowered the meat from the window using the cotton thread my mom uses for sewing. The electricity has been out for so many days. Hugo must have finished all his stored meat by now. Seeing the meat I lowered, Mrs. Jean couldn't help but come over to take some first, all smiles. "Oh my. I always said the old Kendall's family isn't short of good stuff. My dear son, let's do some meat for dinner tonight. Oh dear. We're out of gas at home. Old man, come start the fire." Hunter didn't care about the meat. He gestured to the blonde-haired men to check the electric fence, and after confirming the power was cut, he looked up and spoke to me as if granting a favor. 20 minutes, don't take any food or drinks with you." Seeing this, I quickly promised to only take my parents' blood pressure medicine and a few clothes, nothing else. I also dropped down some snacks and beer, peanuts, dried little fish, dried squid, all sold loosely and each bag weighing over a pound, which I bought for snacking while watching dramas. After stabilizing Hunter, I moved to the window facing the orchard and dumped all of today's leftovers out. My parents didn't understand what I was doing, only asking me if it was time to pack up. No need to pack, he can't even get into our yard. Trust me, Mom and Dad. I returned to the surveillance monitor and saw Hunter had already gone back into Hugo's yard. It seems they had observed over the past few days that not many zombies appeared in this area, and the few that usually roamed around had been killed by them, so they boldly set up a table in the yard and started drinking. A young girl sat on Hunter's lap, pouring him wine while joking with the other 3. The world truly has gone downhill. Seeing this, I dropped 2 more bottles of vodka for them. They chatted and drank merrily, even setting up a fire to keep warm. The atmosphere was lively, and their talk became unguarded. I overheard them saying that they had initially planned to target the survivors' university, but were too slow and got beaten to it. The other party had guns, and although reluctant to give up, Hunter sneaked in and stole a gun to bring back. Hearing from his own parents that my family had stored plenty of good things, he took a risk and came back, managing to rob quite a few supplies with the gun in hand. Now, these brothers had shared hardships and riches alike. The only downside was having just one woman with them wasn't enough. Now with goods in hand, although they couldn't become kings overnight, isn't it enough to be the emperor of your own little realm? If so, you might as well have a whole palace with many courtyards. They burst into laughter, which made the young girl act coquettishly and throw a tantrum again, but I always felt his gaze on me. "I'll let you daydream all you want today." Sure enough, it got dark in just a few minutes. And even Hunter, who was enjoying his drink, realized something was off. Countless feral cats had surrounded Hugo's yard. Not only were these cats unusually large, but their eyes were eerily white, showing no pupils at all. Where did all these cats come from? When it gets dark, shouldn't cats' eyes glow? Why can't I see anything in these cats' eyes? The young girl was so frightened that she hid behind Hunter, her face pale. Hunter instantly realized it was a trap I had set. He quickly threw the snacks from the table far away, and the feral cats rushed after them. Hunter casually grabbed a brightly burning stick from the fire for light and called for his friends to come and cut the electric fence. At that moment, I fiercely dumped several buckets of blood and partially thawed meat from the upstairs window, drenching them thoroughly and making them shiver from the cold. "Go on, cut it. See if you aren't just a wooden doll unaffected by electricity." My electric fence is specially charged with high voltage. Only those unafraid of death would dare cut it. I shouted loudly. Hunter hesitated after all, turning back and gesturing for the young girl to do the cutting. The girl was hesitant. "Hunter, I'm scared. I've never cut before, and I don't have the strength. I can't do it well." Before she could finish, Hunter slapped her. "Just cut it. Stop the nonsense." The girl reluctantly climbed the ladder. And just as I poured another bucket of blood, her scream echoed. Hunter couldn't stand it anymore and turned back to go inside the house to fetch 2 plastic bags to cover his hands. He smirked at me triumphantly. Go ahead, splash more if you can. Let's see how much more you have to splash. I indeed had no more blood to splash. My mom had wanted to buy a fridge with a quick thaw feature which my dad had mockingly deemed useless. No. It turned out that mom was always right. I had used up all the meat in the fridge's fresh-keeping layer tonight, but I had achieved my goal. No need to splash anymore, I said, smiling even more smugly than Hunter. Turn around and look around, dear uncle, see whether your life is more important, or cutting through my little electric fence. Hunter turned around and saw a dense crowd of zombies approaching him. Indeed, the wildcats were just a setup. What I was waiting for was this moment when the zombies besieged the city. I had already been clever when I started to lower the frozen meat, tearing a large hole in the plastic bag and lowering it very slowly. The blood had already dripped everywhere. The wildcats, which I had been feeding these past few days, were initially just to lead the zombies away, later. These cats almost guarded downstairs every day, so I purposefully gave Hunter those snacks, like dried small fish with a strong smell. Cats, with their sensitive noses, would surely follow the scent. Hunter realized this and threw the snacks out towards the village, our house, backed by the mountains, where people habitually do not throw trash behind their own homes but towards the open area in front, as the cats ran off and fought over the small fish. The noise from so many cats fighting, especially since they had mutated. After reading an article on NewsDog, I had been paying close attention to the animals around. After the first night the wild cat helped me lead away the zombies, I noticed that the cat had grown bigger, not only taller and stronger, but it also fought more fiercely. By then, I knew this cat had been infected with the zombie virus. Whether it was scratched by a zombie or had eaten the rotten flesh of a zombie, once one cat mutated, the whole group mutated. And their combat power surged impressively. The noise from the fighting alone was not enough to attract so many zombies, so I added several more buckets of blood. The thick smell of blood, in addition to deliberately provoking Hunter and causing him to speak loudly, they were practically asking for trouble by lighting a fire in the yard. Of course the zombies would come after them. I had the advantage of being in a high-rise. He did not. I was curious to see how they would handle the situation and whether they could fend off the horde of zombies. I closed the window and watched the spectacle unfold, observing a group of people as they fought off the zombies while retreating into the courtyard. At that moment, Hugo and his wife came out with some stewed meat to call their obedient son for dinner. Upon seeing the swarm of zombies, both were petrified, standing frozen in shock. Hunter, seeing his way home blocked by his parents, didn't think twice before dragging his elderly parents out. The stewed meat scattered all over the ground as he hurried inside. Blondie and 2 others quickly followed him in, and then the door slammed shut with a heavy thud. Outside, Hugo and his wife, still in shock, along with a young girl who was a step too slow, panicked and began banging on the door. Open the door, son, your dad and I haven't gotten inside yet. Hurry up and open the door. Hunter, don't leave me behind. You promised I'd be your favorite. The cries from Hugo's yard didn't last long before the zombies devoured the 3 of them. The gruesome scene, illuminated by the firelight, was horrifying, and I couldn't help but run to the bathroom to throw up, but maybe it was for the best. If my longtime neighbors had turned into zombies, I'm not sure I could have brought myself to fight them. The zombie horde was attacking Hugo, but Hunter, I couldn't let him go. I had to deal with him tonight, otherwise. Once he recovered, it would be our family who would suffer. Up on the 3rd floor, my parents had already brought up 2 large barrels of liquor, and my dad had placed the water inlet hose of his car wash machine into a barrel. Without hesitation, I plugged in the car wash machine, and high-proof alcohol sprayed from the pressure washer onto the group of zombies around Hugo. Now, a new problem arose. I wasn't sure if the smell of the alcohol would affect the zombies' sense of smell. I only knew that the noise from the car wash machine had already drawn the attention of the zombie horde. They collectively looked up at the building. I haven't seen such order even when I was doing military stunts in university. Taking a cue, I grabbed a middle school English language teaching boombox with a card insert, turned the volume up to the maximum, tied a plastic bag as a makeshift parachute, and tossed it lightly, landing it perfectly on Hugo's rooftop. The sound from the small speaker indeed diverted the zombies' attention back to Hugo. I then picked up a water scoop and splashed out all the liquor until both barrels were empty, returning to the 2nd floor. As I wondered how long Hugo's old doors and windows would hold up, Hunter opened a side window, threw someone out, and quickly closed it again. It was one of his nameless henchmen, whose throat had been slit, staining a large area of the floor with blood. I watched as he struggled to crawl outside, but unfortunately, there were too many zombies. A clang sound came as another person was thrown out of a different window. The zombies were drawn to both sides, and Hunter, along with Blondie, shirtless, rushed out of the house, apparently with no time to change their blood-stained clothes. Damn it, we have a long day ahead, he said as he dove into the car, ready to escape. I couldn't let him get away. That was the only thought in my mind. Hunter could even use his parents as scapegoats, and since I had already made an enemy of him tonight, I absolutely couldn't let him escape. Later, everything seemed a bit hazy. My only thought was that Hunter must not escape alive. My hand touched a cold bottle. Oh, it was a Molotov cocktail I had made. Where's the lighter? I remembered I had placed it on the windowsill. Oh, here it is. I lit the Molotov cocktail and threw it at Hunter's car roof. The glass bottle shattered on impact, and the flames blazed up, thankfully not too far from where I had sprayed the liquor on their car earlier. It caught fire quickly. Not long after, with a loud bang, the car exploded. Turning around, I saw that Dad had also set the group of zombies on fire. It turned out that zombies really don't feel pain, even as their bodies were scorched black. They steadfastly searched around Hugo for the source of the sound emitting from a small speaker, despite using 2 large barrels of high-proof alcohol. The fire didn't last long as the alcohol evaporated quickly. We extinguished the remaining flames with a high-pressure water hose from the 3rd floor, and by the time the fire was completely out, we could see the sunrise. A new day, a new year had arrived, and the biggest threat beside me had been eliminated. Ever since the apocalypse began, I've been terrified. How was I, a physically weak woman, supposed to protect my parents from the savage zombies and ensure our survival until the nation was restored? I wasn't sure, and I was scared. So scared that I needed sleeping pills to sleep every night. So scared that I would hide under the covers and cry alone. But I always pretended to be nonchalant in front of my parents. Now, I'm no longer afraid. If anyone or any zombie tries to harm my family again, I won't hesitate. After the battle, we'd lost 2 large barrels of high-proof alcohol, some meat, and 3 large bags of snacks. The surveillance near Hugo and the electric grid on that wall were damaged by the fire, but Dad has fixed them, and they're back in operation. Casualty report: the enemy was completely wiped out. We had no casualties. It was a joyous occasion as it coincided with New Year's Day. I playfully asked Mom to cook something delicious. Since zombies couldn't enter and there were no other survivors around, we could eat well and then catch up on some much-needed sleep. Mom happily agreed, while Dad went to the balcony, trembling as he pulled out a cigarette and called me over. "Kendall, don't put on a brave front. If you're scared, just cry it out, like when you were little. Why don't you cry on Daddy's shoulder? I really regret sending you to boarding school when you were so young. If I hadn't been so stubborn and just kept my job at the factory, you wouldn't have had to suffer with me in the countryside." Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably, and I sobbed on his shoulder just like I did when I felt wronged in kindergarten. I shared with him my grievances and fears, telling him that I was more afraid of losing them than being killed by zombies. So I have no regrets about what I did last night. And I told him that I'm no longer afraid. We need to keep living well together until the end of these dark times. Spin-off episode 1. Unknowingly, it had been 5 months since our family moved to the survivors' base. Standing up, I looked down at the bustling crowd below, still feeling a sense of unreality. Closing my eyes, all I could see were the times at home when we scrimped and saved, carefully rationing our food. After resolving the threat named Hunter, our family indeed had a worry-free period, but our food reserves were depleted by the 3rd year of the apocalypse. Fortunately, our chickens kept laying eggs. Luckily, we didn't eat much flour-based food, so the stockpiled flour was just enough to feed the chickens. My parents made full use of their skills, setting up several greenhouses in the yard to grow vegetables. However, since we had used up all the bought seeds and the germination rate of our own seeds had drastically decreased, we had to be careful with our vegetable consumption. Thankfully, potatoes, sweet potatoes, and corn still maintained their yield. 4 or 5 of our solar panels were also damaged, which made electricity usage tight. As for supplies, we were not short of daily necessities or water, but food was really becoming an issue. From the 2nd year of the apocalypse, the weather began to worsen, reaching as high as 45 degrees Celsius in summer and dropping to minus 10 degrees Celsius in winter. Even with snowfall, summer was manageable. We could just move to the basement. Winter was truly harsh, as such low temperatures were very rare in our region, and we had to risk turning on the air conditioning. Fortunately, our air conditioner's external unit was installed in the basement, where the sound of the wind and snow covered the noise from the unit. What's worse is the long-term lack of communication with outsiders and the inability to receive any external information. Our family's mindset underwent a significant transformation. When the apocalypse first struck, we were filled with confidence, believing that the nation would swiftly resolve the crisis. Every morning, we would check for any sign of cell service restoration, and I'd use binoculars from the 3rd floor to see if any vehicles were still passing on the main road. However, as days turned into weeks, our once unwavering belief began to falter, eventually leading to complete disillusionment. I realized that this state of despair was not right, but felt powerless to change anything. Ultimately, as long as the zombies are not eradicated, we cannot return to our former lives. All I could do was dig out the computer and repeatedly watch downloaded TV shows with my parents to distract ourselves. Fortunately, at that time, the government began to fight back. Survival bases were established in several coastal cities, They even managed to temporarily restore mobile signals for brief periods, alerting us several times about impending zombie hordes. During these brief periods of signal restoration, we managed to make contact with the rescue team. The rescue team informed us that the survival bases already built were too far from us and advised against trying to reach them. A new survival base was being planned in a city not far from us. They told us to hold on for a year, after which it would be operational. Every 3 months, they would drop supplies by helicopter. Learning that things were moving in a positive direction, my parents and I shook off the gloom of food scarcity and regained our spirits. 9 months later, we received another call from Officer Jackson of the rescue team. He informed us that a massive zombie horde had been detected to our north. Calculations showed that our family's orchard and villa lay directly in the horde's path, and they would soon reach our village. The good news was that the new survival base was now operational, and a helicopter would soon arrive to evacuate us. Then, I watched as a swarm of helicopters arrived, bringing a large contingent of soldiers who buried countless landmines and explosives in our orchard and villa. Officer Jackson explained that the scale of this zombie horde was too large. Their beast-like instincts had detected living humans to the south. If left unchecked, the newly built survival base would surely be trampled into ruins by the relentless zombies, negating all the nation's previous efforts. Thus, the only option was to lay a heavy minefield in the horde's path, to reduce the number of zombies as much as possible, even if they couldn't be completely eliminated. My parents, with tears in their eyes, firmly nodded their agreement when they heard that our home would be destroyed. I raised my camera and took the first family photo since the apocalypse began in front of our villa. Today, the house that sheltered us for 4 years would cease to exist. To say there was no sense of loss would be a lie, as the toughest months since the apocalypse began were spent here. Once the landmines were in place, we evacuated with the soldiers. Just after boarding the helicopter, I saw the zombie horde approaching, countless zombies, densely packed and staggering toward the back mountain. I had experienced several zombie hordes before, but we had never evacuated. Due to the geographical advantage and confidence in the villa personally supervised by my father, plus the smaller scale of previous hordes, from high above, the zombie horde looked like a plague of locusts, leaving barren devastation in its wake. Such a massive horde could overwhelm even the sturdiest of structures. As soon as the zombies entered the range of the back mountain, they were blown apart by the mines, the explosions relentless, audible even through headphones. Dust filled the air and the smell of gunpowder stunned the eyes. Yet, the zombies fearlessly continued their relentless advance. The situation was as chilling as warriors heading to battle in the age of cold weapons. Fortunately, the hard work of one afternoon was not in vain. The scale of the zombie horde had been greatly reduced due to the explosion. However, the size was still considerable. So many mines and bombs only managed to reduce the number of zombies by 1/5. I met with my parents, and we were all so shocked that we were at a loss for words. Seeing our somber mood, a young soldier accompanying us started chatting with us to lighten the atmosphere. The young soldier looked youthful, his skin tanned dark by the sun, yet his facial features were sharp and well-defined, with bold brows and bright eyes. But once he spoke, one could tell his age was much greater than his appearance suggested. His voice through the earpiece was deep, resonant, and magnetic. Perhaps it was the hero filter, but I found it oddly comforting. Don't worry, our comrades ahead are already planting mines, and there are bombers on standby at the survival base. Our combat department has already calculated the path of the zombie horde and the number of mines needed. We absolutely won't let these zombies reach the survival base. I swear on my honor as a soldier, I will ensure the safety of our people, he said, saluting us. My parents and I couldn't help but laugh at this, explaining to him that we weren't scared or worried. It was just that it was our first time witnessing such a scene, and it was quite shocking. Once the conversation started, it couldn't be stopped. My parents, having hardly seen any living people recently, lost all their initial reserve. From asking where the young brother was from to what breed his family dog was, even after disembarking from the helicopter, the conversation didn't cease. I clearly saw the young soldier's relieved expression as he bid us goodbye. After arriving at the survival base, life became busy. The survival base had just been established, and besides our family, there were only a dozen other families, all military dependents. My parents happily resumed their farming life. Currently, at the entire survival base, only they were true farmers. The soldiers might manage to plant mines well, but farming was a tough task for them. Fortunately, the base was equipped with various agricultural vehicles and tools, and with a group of soldiers helping, my parents weren't too burdened. I took on the role of a guide at the base, responsible for introducing newcomers to the basic situation of the base. Despite being busy, it was very reassuring. I later met that young soldier, Leah, several more times. He was a squad leader in the rescue team. During one casual conversation, I learned that the newshound didn't make it to the end. Someone had exposed his real identity and looted his supplies. He didn't die at the hands of zombies but was driven to suicide by jumping off a building by his own compatriots. The survivor's university was also rescued by the military, according to Leah. When they arrived at the university, it had turned into a living hell. Young men were chained and forced to farm and raise pigs, and the elderly were simply pushed outside to fend for themselves. Even the younger children had to work, and any disobedience was met with beating. As for the women, their status was even worse, barely clothed. The military executed the criminals in front of everyone and also sent psychologists to provide therapy. However, the memories of what had happened could never be erased. In the face of desperation, people struggled to survive. But once safety is assured, feelings of shame prevail, especially once it is confirmed that their family members are safe. Many still choose to end their lives. After hearing this, I felt down for several days. Leah specifically came to comfort me, sharing stories of a supermarket owner he met during a mission who selflessly helped his neighbors. Several families helped each other and supported one another through tough times. He also told me about a pregnant woman who, by chance, saved a doctor. Not only did the doctor successfully help her deliver her child, but he also saved her mother who suffered from high blood pressure. Perhaps this is just human nature. In harsh conditions, there's no time to dwell on sorrow. As long as I'm doing slightly better than others, I start to worry about their situations, unable to bear even a hint of human suffering. I looked at Leah, noticing the dark circles under his eyes, and felt a pang of guilt. They were already tired from their mission. And yet he came to comfort me. I patted his shoulder, signaling that I understood and would pull myself together, and then told him to go rest. But Leah didn't move, looking as if he had something to say. I spoke before him, bringing up how we don't know when the apocalypse will end and reminding him to be cautious on his missions to change the subject. Leah gave me a wry smile, said good night, and then turned to leave. As soon as he left, my smile fell. I knew what he was about to say. They had received orders to move to a new survival base next week. Once they left, they wouldn't return until the apocalypse was over, but I couldn't go with him. My parents had finally settled down. I couldn't drag them around anymore. No one can be sure of the unknown future. I wasn't sure if I could wait for him to return alive, and neither could he. If that's the case, why delay each other? When I got home, I unexpectedly found my shameless ex-boyfriend having a cozy chat over tea with my dad. Gregory was my high school classmate and a manager in one department of my company. Though we worked in different departments, he joined the company 3 years after me, and not long after, their department's manager retired. Despite being new, Gregory was young, ambitious, good-looking, and skilled, which quickly led to his promotion. Our relationship started simply because we were of similar age and from the same place. We kept our relationship secret. It was brief and, despite being in different departments, office romances were somewhat taboo, especially since we were both managers in key departments. Gregory planned to stay at the company for 2 more years to save enough for a house down payment before switching jobs, and then we could openly be together. But before we could even hold hands publicly, I returned from a business trip to find out he had started dating the boss's daughter. I wondered if there was some misunderstanding. We were both so busy with work trips, I barely had time to reply to messages, let alone date the boss's daughter. When I reached his office, his assistant told me he wasn't in today. I called him, and the boss's daughter answered. The boss's daughter had graduated this year and was supposed to intern in my department. However, after visiting the company and somehow noticing Gregory, she insisted on being transferred to his department. Despite initially disagreeing due to concerns over his daughter's workload, the boss eventually gave in to her demands. I tried to keep my voice neutral. Isn't Manager Sue here? I brought back gifts for everyone from my trip and was checking on him since he's not in the office. Oh, it's nothing. We just came back from Hong Kong and are too tired to work today. And about the stuff you left with Gregory, please find time to take them back. I find it awkward to use someone else's things. Besides, since you and Gregory didn't really take your relationship to a substantial level, his being with me shouldn't really hurt you. With each word she said, my heart sank a little more. I forced myself to stay calm. It's just some kitchenware. Please, feel free to throw it away. Additionally, please relay a message to Manager Sue for me. Needing a woman to break up for him, I really have no respect for him. I used to go out of my way to prepare meals for him because I knew he often worked overtime and would get stomach aches if he didn't eat properly. I would cook at his place during my lunch breaks when I wasn't too busy, then head back to work. Looking back, it really wasn't worth it. Eventually, it naturally led to my dismissal. After we broke up, I was indeed heartbroken and in a slump for a while. But I gradually came to terms with it. Then, as the apocalypse arrived, I didn't even have the time to think about it. I couldn't believe that jerk had the audacity to show up in front of me again. The first thing I said to him was, "How are you still not dead, you jerk?" That really startled my parents, and my dad even scolded me. "Kendall, where do you get off talking to guests like that? Go outside and think about what you've done." Wow. He was so mad he didn't even use my nickname. I just turned around and left. As I was leaving, I said, "This is the ex-boyfriend who ditched me to be with the big boss's daughter. Is there something wrong with what I said?" Indeed, the next second, Gregory was also kicked out by my dad. I crossed my arms and waited for him at the door. "Speak if you have something to say. Fart if you need to." Gregory started speaking in a way that just made you want to hit him. "Kendall, are you in a bad mood today? You seem very irritable. Hey. Don't go. I have something serious to talk about." I stopped in my tracks. "One more useless word and I'll tie you up and throw you outside for the zombies." "Kendall, I'm sorry. I wronged you back then. I don't want to struggle anymore. It's too exhausting, constantly traveling and socializing day and night. I'm really tired, so I took a shortcut. I came here today to firstly apologize, and secondly to persuade you. You might not see it, but people close to us know you're stubborn and won't turn back until you hit a wall, and you have a strong sense of responsibility." "Cut the crap," I snapped. "Leah is really a good person. He also saved me. I stayed at another base for half a year, and when I heard they needed people here, I came to help. I didn't expect to run into him again. The other day I saw you two having lunch together in the cafeteria, and the way he looked at you was just like how I used to look at you." Gregory stepped forward, looked me in the eyes, and said earnestly, "Kendall, I was the one who made mistakes back then, not you. Don't let one setback hold you back forever. Both you and Leah are good people. You deserve his love, and he is worthy of you. Leah is not like me. I'm a hypocrite, but he is a real man. You do have some self-awareness. I can't continue this conversation today. I get your point. You've said your piece. Now you better go." I waved him off and turned to walk away. It seems like he might have a point. Could it really be that, as Kendall, I'm doomed only to meet jerks? I refuse to believe that. I lost the bet last time, but this time, I'm betting on myself to win. I caught up to Leah, who hadn't gone far, panting, and asked him, "What were you about to say just now?" Leah, still not quite catching on, instinctively responded, "Would you like to be with me? Wait for me for a few years. I'm willing." In the darkness, I could clearly see Leah's bright white teeth beneath her dark skin, her smile so dazzling it almost blinded me. I was finally able to hold hands with the one I love in front of everyone. After Leah left, life at the base gradually got back on track, and good news kept coming. We had established 7 survival bases inland. Significant breakthroughs had also been made in the development of a vaccine. Finally, in August of the 7th year of the apocalypse, I saw on TV that the national leader officially announced that our country had overcome the disaster. The door lock turned, and Leo walked in. With tears in my eyes, I threw myself into his arms. The apocalypse was over, and it was time for us to start anew.